This is WFP.
Recording in progress.
I'd like to open up the Franklin Conservation Commission meeting for May 29th, 2025. And before I do anything, I need to take a roll call.
Richard Johnson's here.
Louis Puga.
Deb Livingston.
Michael Ryan?
Roger Trahan.
Nicole Sharamonte.
I think Mark's off. Mark's at a wedding. Okay, so the first public hearing is 1 Paddock Lane. We have a note here that additional information was submitted on 5/22.
Hey, Jeff?
Yes? Oh, Mark, you're there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't get off mute. Mark LePage is present. So.
Okay, oh, great. Thank you, thanks. So, thanks, Mark. Thanks for tuning in from remote.
You bet.
Right. So Mark wrote down a set of discussion points. Do we have anyone here for Paddock Lane or online? Oh, yeah. Come here.
How's it going, everyone? This is Andrew Tebow, wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. I'm here on behalf of the applicant tonight and also covering for my colleague, Chris Frateroli, who you've been working with on this project.
Great.
And I'm Paul DeSimone, Colonial Engineering. We did the plans.
Okay, great.
And this is the owner.
Yeah, never used.
Great. So the additional information that was submitted, that you guys submitted, could you just briefly summarize what new things have happened?
Sure.
I'm happy to share my screen and do that via Zoom if that's the preference.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
Sure. Okay.
He should be all set now.
He's more technical about it, so.
Fine.
Perfect. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Excellent. So to preface, we're first starting off with the plan that you guys had seen previously at the last meeting. So my colleague Chris and the team were last here with you guys on would have been May 1st, discussing some of the efforts in order to listen to some of the commission's comments, find a happy medium with mitigation, some shrunk footprints here. So on May 1st, it was presented, the plan that you see here, with portions of a deck and portions of the house still within the 25. A lot of the comments that we had received at that time were to look at removing the deck, to look at shrinking the house, the limit of work, see what we could do to shrink this footprint, shrink the impacts, and see what we could find for more mitigation. And so on the 22nd, you guys had received a new proposal that had made some significant additions to the plans. Most importantly, the deck that was off the rear of the house within the 25 is now removed. Off of that, the house was reoriented and the garage and the house were both partially shrunk. And what that did was it completely removed that rear encroachment into the 25. If I pan back to the other plan, we show in pink that there were portions of the rear of the proposed house as well as the deck, both located within the 25. Those have both now been pulled out, and it allowed us to put a few mitigation plantings back there to sort of wrap the exterior with more mitigation plantings than before. The northern retaining wall for the limit of work was also shifted in about 2 feet. The goal was just to tighten the limit of work as far from the wetlands as we physically could. So we tightened that up a little bit. The main entrance to the house was relocated to be adjacent to the garage now, which what that did was it eliminated the need for a front walkway and helped us cut down the impervious surface cover on the lot a little bit. Also new with this proposal, a significant change that we've had is on the existing house on the property that currently sits on 1 Paddock Lane. We now propose to remove 1,900 square feet of the lawn area adjacent to the driveway and fit that with native plantings as well. So what we have now is the removal of 1,900 square feet of lawn, and this is an additional 47 mitigation plantings, a mixture of trees and shrubs, to sort of look for other areas of mitigation on the lot. I know at the last meeting there was discussion around the waiver requests that were submitted, the impervious surface cover on the lot, and the opportunity for more mitigation. And we identified this as the best area to provide continuous significant mitigation. And because the existing house on the lot is also tight to wetlands as we see here, this is mitigation both within the 25 and the 50-foot zones.
Oh, okay.
And then most importantly, the commission had also asked for a few calculations based on some of the square footages that we were working with. I know there were a few plan iterations, but there was some questions on some of the numbers that were attached. And so in Goddard's supplemental submittal to the commission, we also provided 2 different tables on the lot as a whole with the existing house and the proposed house for pre and post. So the first table that you see here is for lawn and landscaping. So it's all pervious surface cover, but it is part of the site developments. And so we broke it down with that lawn reduction. We're actually a net reduction in square footage cover within the 25 and modest increases in the 25 and the 50. We did the same table calculations for the existing impervious for the house, the deck, and the driveway, with a total of 3,150 square feet and a total 0 to 100 foot buffer zone. So I'm here on Zoom. I know we have a team there in person as well. So if the commission has any questions on these plan revisions, we're happy to answer them.
I'll go ahead and take questions if everybody has them.
I have a couple.
Please.
Okay. So you were referring to the house that's on the lot now. So is this one lot or two lots?
This is currently one lot. It's proposed to be subdivided and to construct the proposed house, but at present, right now, it is one lot.
So it's not subdivided at all right now?
Not at this time.
Okay. I had thought all our plans, there was two lots, but apparently not.
If I could answer, just proposed this, he drew a line there showing where the line would be.
So when the original house was built, which is what's there now, there were waivers given to put that house in, would be my understanding.
I don't believe so, no.
There were no waivers given
Not
for
that I
the
know of,
original
no.
house?
No.
And
Again, as a follow-up to that, is zoning agreed to make that, to subdivide that lot? Has that been cleared with them, the subdividing of that?
I've discussed this with Gus, and yeah, we're ready to go.
but it hasn't been subdivided?
Not
Unless-
formally submitted.
Until we know for
Hey,
sure
Mark,
that this can be
this is,
done.
Sorry, this is John Nero, Beta. I just wanted to jump in and just note that, technically on this lot, since you have Paddock Lane on one side, Beach Street on the other side, Beach Street being the entrance to the, new proposed lot, that, to my understanding, the applicant can probably confirm this will qualify as an A&R, so it wouldn't be subject to subdivision control law. It would be I guess you could call it a by right creation of a new lot since they already have public frontage.
Correct.
They can clarify that though.
That's correct.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, I'll certainly let our engineer answer that, but that is my understanding as well, and why the goal to subdivide this is here. So we do have the proposed plan here. It does show what the proposed lot 1 and 2 would look like, just at the current time with this proposal before the commission. They are one lot, but we did break it up by proposed lot lines and square footage on the site plans that you received.
And is it okay still ask questions, Jeff?
Sure,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So the new proposed house, how many square feet is that, including the garage?
I can pull up the table here. So the proposed house, we have it broken up by total impervious. So this includes the deck and the driveway. So it's 3,200 square feet total. I believe the house envelope itself, and I once again will let you guys confirm, I believe it's around a 1,900 square foot envelope.
And there's still a deck on it?
No,
The deck has been removed from the plan. So the deck was previously proposed on the last hearing on May 1st. It was proposed within the 25,
Right.
and there was comments looking to remove it, so we've now removed it.
And isn't part of the proposed house in the 0 to 25 still?
Part of the
Yes.
proposed house is, so because this property has 40-foot front and side yard setbacks, so there is no way to construct the house on this lot
Correct.
by keeping it out of the 25.
Correct.
But originally, when you received the first proposal, there was 2 encroachments into the 25. It was the northern portion here because of this wetland line, and it was the rear, or we can call it the eastern side of the house and the deck. And what we did was we shrunk the footprint and removed the deck, and now there's the only one sort of mandatory encroachment because of the zoning setbacks.
And of the 1,900 square feet approximately of the proposed house, how many square feet are in the 0 to 25 and 25 to 50?
Well, I can give you the breakdown of the 0 to 25 for everything, the house, the wall, all that stuff. That's on the plan. It's 1,549 square feet disturbance in the 0 to 25. In the 25 to 50, the disturbance is 4,327 square feet. And between the 50 and the 100 is 3,605 square feet, for a total in all three buffers, 9,481 square feet for disturbance. That's everything.
And to piggyback off of that, where you see my cursor here, this table right here, this column, is the total impervious associated with the house, deck, and driveway in each of those zones. So there are slightly smaller values here.
Yeah, the structures are 3.33% lot coverage for the structure. And for the total impervious with the structure is 5.74%.
But you don't know how many square feet out of that 1,900 is actual house, is house building garage.
I don't have that calculated. I can get it for you. I just don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, I've been asking
We
that
use-
for a couple of weeks now.
Oh, we thought you were asking for the square footage and the disturbance. We weren't sure about that.
We can absolutely separate this by each structure. The numbers that we came up with on this table here, these can very easily be broken out into the exact square footage of the house, the exact of the deck, and the exact of the driveway. So hearing that the commission wants that, we can absolutely get that.
I'm good for now, Jim, thank you.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
So, I'm just trying to look, I'm looking through the report here, I think it's the same one you have up. You said you I think, what the garage itself, you pushed it in, closer to the structure now, so basically you're decreasing the footprint.
Right, we actually put the garage like basically inside the house, shrunk the house.
Mm-hmm, okay,
So it's a much smaller footprint than the previous plan you have,
yeah.
or the previous two plans you have.
And then the tables that you have on, let's see here, I think the tables you were just referencing, I'm trying to look here. I just lost it. Section 2.0. So it says existing lawn landscaping, proposed lawn landscaping, then there's a change. What's the existing is in reference to the existing house or the previous plan?
He's gonna have to answer
Andrew?
that.
Yeah, that was a bit tough to hear you. Do you mind repeating that? I'm happy to answer it. Thank you.
So you have here, I was trying to I was trying to do my best to understand the table here. So existing, and then you got proposed, existing was it the previous plan or the existing house that's there?
Yeah, the existing is the existing house that's there. So the existing columns that we see here
Okay.
would be what is on the current house on One Paddock Lane right now.
So you're just doing a comparable to the house and then what you, okay, so, okay, I was
Yep.
I was trying to see.
Yep, and then the
what that
net
looked
change.
like, what the delta's changing with the, from the previous plan to the new plan, and how that look, what that square footage was.
The back line of the house is about 16 feet.
Yep, yeah,
from
so
where
this
it
net
was
change that you
before.
see
Yeah,
here.
So we pulled it back 16 feet.
Mhm.
okay.
Recording in progress.
All right, I don't have any other questions, but, yeah, I don't have any further questions.
Mark, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I just had that one question on the subdividing, so I'm good, Jeff, thank you.
Okay. Good.
A question on the driveway, is that pervious or impervious?
It's impervious. We created a swale, stone swale to the left. Are you guys looking at the plan? So all the, any runoff from the driveway is gonna go into those swales and then filter out. And we also have roof runoff infiltration system in the front yard, if you can see that. So everything is pretty much taken care of as far as treating everything and getting it into the ground.
So if we don't have any further questions, it seems like this is like the best case, right? And the question seems to be, is the best case sufficient, right? And that's gonna be up to, obviously, what everybody thinks, right? So,
I'm still, I mean, and I'm sure I'm right on this, but when this came before us, we thought it was a already separated lot, because I remember even Richard saying, we can't deny him use of his land.
No.
But if it's still one lot, we've already given him use of his land when he built that first house, the original house.
What, down, the first house that's further east of this?
Yeah, well, right now, as of today, this is all one lot.
right, there's no denial.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, there's no denial.
I'm just not in favor of how much of the house is sitting in wetlands and.
You know, Jeff, maybe as a suggestion, because I think we've really struggled with the impact on the 0 to 25 on this. You know, and I mean, just in fairness to the applicant here, maybe, I don't know if we want to do an informal poll, and I think the potential options on the table are, you know, are commissioners, can commissioners see themselves getting comfortable passing any kind of dwelling that's going to impact the 0 to 25? You know, but not as it stands today, and back to the drawing board. Do we feel comfortable with that as is? Do we want to vote on that officially? Or, I mean, is this just something where we just can't see it happening? And I guess some of that might be up to the applicant. I feel like we've been, you know, slicing this up pretty thoroughly and just owe the applicant an indication of kind of where our heads are at.
Right.
And maybe that's a formal vote. So I just, something that popped in my head as we were talking about this is a thought.
Well, I think Mark makes a good point. I mean, again, in all fairness, right, to you, right, one thing we don't want to do, we seriously don't, is we don't want to simply string you along and have you keep coming back with alternative analyses. You know, if it's really going to be a hard no, because nobody can understand how you could get anything into this site specifically. So, I mean, I think at this point, and I think you've made very good faith gestures and efforts, please understand that, I think you have. I think we do need to take a reading just to see where people stand. Just, I mean, for your own elucidation of anything. Because, I mean, it's not fair for you to keep spending money and time if, you know, it's just never gonna happen.
No, I totally agree
I
with
mean-
that. I mean,
Right,
the sooner the better, I guess.
Right.
Actually, if it happens.
Well, I gotta,
Go ahead.
I drive by this place all the time.
Yep,
It's a very big piece of property. And the house is at one end down there that, I don't know how long it's been there, but it's fairly modern. So, the whole place is, I guess, is a wetland.
yeah,
Or
yeah, that's what it was,
there's trees all over Hell's Half Acre down there, they're falling over this way. So we're gonna tell them, you can't build on it. You can pay taxes on it, but you can't build on it.
Well, unfortunately, that's pretty true for anyone that has wetlands on the property or unfortunately buys a property and then finds out, as we were talking earlier about, you know.
Oh, yeah, we had this conversation.
Right, you know.
But
Okay.
I have a lot of problems with that little
I understand,
scenario.
no, I understand, yeah. The morality, of that, yeah, I understand.
And they've jumped through several hoops to make this
No, I mean, I think
little
they've,
plot
I think they've gotten as good as they're going to get. I mean, that's what I think.
as doable as you're gonna make it.
Right, because I mean, you know, I mean, at some point, you get to the point where it's a shoebox, and
Right.
that's how possible, you know,
Yeah,
maybe
I think-
some, you know,
If they're thinking that, oh, well, we got this one through, then we can build a couple more, because there'd be room for a couple more down through there.
Oh,
I don't think
No,
that's gonna happen.
no,
yeah, it's
I think this is painful enough.
It's two lots.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I'm not a builder, I'm not a developer, Okay, I have two daughters that have a hard time buying a house. One of them lives in Franklin, her son's in school. You know, I have roots here, regardless of what anybody else said. So I am here. It's not that I want to destroy anything, but I've seen other properties where similar situations have been allowed. So that's why I made a go at it. And frankly, like I said, I'm not going to get rich off of it, but it is an economic consideration to my life. I'm retirement age and haven't retired yet. So this would help me in that sense, and I'm not pleading based on that. I'd like to do whatever I have to get it built, but, you know, it's in terms of regulations and doing things right. That's really it. And I picked up a lot of trash from there. I've had neighbors push their leaves from across the street onto my property. When I first bought it, there was a guy next door with a tarp pulling all his debris and dumping it there. There's tree limbs sitting on the edge of the lot right now. I honestly think, again, I'm biased, but I honestly think it would be better for the lot to have a house there, because somebody will be living there and protecting it in a sense. You know?
This is a big property. I mean, this area goes all the way back in there, and it's further back, there's a very wet area. In fact, it's during the wetter times, it's a little pond back there.
Yeah, backs into all the other
And
lots too.
frankly, this little lot that they've squeezed it in there is having very little impact on the total picture of what that wetland is. So I can tell you right now that I think they've done as best they can, and I'd be in favor of letting them build it there the way they have it. So that's my vote on the straw.
So, let me ask, so Commissioners, would you like to take at least an informal poll just to see where, I mean, just to
I think there's audience too that wants to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anyone, thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience or online that has any comments or questions about the project?
Yes, hello.
Go ahead, please.
Is she muted?
We lost her.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, this is Renata Aguilar at 38 Palomino Drive.
Okay.
Behind.
Hi, I just wanted to acknowledge that I do appreciate that the applicant and the team that's working for him made a lot of changes since the first plan proposed. So definitely, I do see, you know, that they are willing to work with the comments of the commission and the comments that they received. I still see that a lot of the house is sitting in that 0 to 25 foot buffer zone. So to the point of Mark, you know, it just seems basically the whole project sits within the 100-foot buffer zone, and a lot of the house is still sitting within the 0 to 25, and so there is a big impact. And I understand that it is a big lot. But it does have the wetlands. We own the property across the woods, which also have the wetlands. You know, we do pay taxes on those. We cannot build on it either. So we bought it with that. We knew there are wetlands. You cannot really do anything with it, and we do appreciate the wetlands. And I think to the point of, and I am not sure who was speaking, the commissioner, that, you know, it's not gonna be such a big impact. Every impact makes other impacts. So you remove trees, you remove, you know, you build houses. It's just, it will have an impact on the area and on the wetlands as well. So, so I would really like to see, I don't know, I just don't see how you can really shrink this house anymore to fit, because there's nowhere to fit it. So, so I'm still against this project. And that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, maybe a
Wait.
quick question.
One second.
Sorry.
We have one other person here in the audience that wants to make a comment.
Okay, got it.
Hello.
1 second, please.
Oh, hi. I've had my hand up for a while. Joni McGee, 36
I'm sorry,
Palomino.
there's someone here in chambers that's going to the mic right now.
Can we let her go while I set up a little bit?
Okay, that's fine. Okay, please continue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Joni McGee, 36 Palomino Drive. My property also is wetlands in the back. I pay taxes as well, and I just don't understand why we have conservation commissions, why we talk about not building on wetlands, why we would make an impact. Could someone explain to me why it would be okay to build on wetlands? Because I just don't understand it. And I'm also curious how many of the commissioners have actually been to the property in question.
I think it's good for some context that none of this project would actually be built in a wetland itself, right? So we're, just to clarify to a degree, we're talking about buffer zones to the wetlands, which are important and something that we take seriously, but are a very different consideration than the wetland itself, just as one point. The other thing that's good to understand is nothing's been approved yet, right? Anybody looking to do something in the town can propose anything they like, right? That's the open opportunity and why we have the commission to consider it and talk it through. Our approach is we always try and be collaborative and reasonable and give every applicant the best chance to optimize a project, to minimize impact on any of the wetlands resources. And I think that's what you've witnessed here with this. To my point earlier, in the spirit of not stringing it along, we did want to give every opportunity to see if the project could be reconfigured. It has been significantly. A lot of work's gone into that. We're probably at the point, and that'll be a decision we'll make here shortly, whether we need to make a final decision. But nothing's been approved, and even if this were to be approved, it wouldn't be for construction in a wetland itself. So that's just a fairly important distinction. So a little bit of feedback on your question. Certainly feel free to elaborate or ask further if you want the need.
Thank you. How many of the commissioners have been to the property?
Before we go into that, I have one comment to piggyback on Mark's. There is this concept of net zero, and one of the things that conservation attempts to do for those projects, which will have some sort of impact, hopefully minimal, but in addition to allowing the applicant and hoping to guide the applicant to minimize that impact, we do have we do essentially ask that the applicant, if they are going to make an impact, that they then basically pull aside some other piece of property that so far is not made into a wetland or has been, say, recovered or made into that lawn or something, and essentially reconfigure that part to be a wetland with wetland plants, et cetera, and allow that to essentially grow naturally. So the idea is to have somewhat of a net zero. In our case, our bylaws typically ask for a 2-to-1 conversion. So basically you take 100 feet, then you basically get back 200. So it's not the sense that people are just building on wetlands and taking all wetlands away. There is, again, the concept where you can't get away from that. It's impossible. There is the option to create additional wetlands to mitigate the service area that you're taking, the service that you're taking away. Right, so there are those additional impacts, and basically the wetlands are our guide. Wetland laws are a guide, and again, what Mark said was true. We make every attempt to try to work with an applicant to give guidance to an applicant and education and training to an applicant to try to make a project as feasible as possible. But given that, It may still not be at the end of the day, but we give it its best chance. So you asked how many people had been to actually physically walk the property. I have not.
Oh, I've been there several times.
I have not.
I've driven by it many times, but have not visited it.
I've driven by, stopped, walked the street part, but I did not go actually onto the property.
Yeah, I'll say this too, some of, when there's a, applicant here, I'll go drive, some of these areas are familiar to me because I drop off my kids, basically around town, so, even though I'm not physically at the site, I do understand, I do know of it, so, it's like, Richard was saying. It's not familiar, definitely, I've been around neighborhoods, so, but in this particular, this is like one of the streets that I haven't gone to, but I've been to others, and I've actually site walked some as well. Not all of them though.
And I think we should reiterate the fact that we're not building in a wetland. We're talking about the buffer zones to a wetland.
Correct.
So your statement that we are allowing people to build in a wetland isn't true. We're talking about the buffer zones to a wetland.
Right.
I think the wetland demarcation changes over space and time. I've been a homeowner there for 20 years, and I was told by the town council at that time that the land would never be developed because it was deemed wetlands. So maybe there was confusion 28 years ago, or we're looking at wetlands and having different boundaries.
Whoa, wait. So please understand how it works. There is a process of delineation. And typically what happens, and this is on the applicant or the construction person that the applicant hires, that they go out and they walk, usually with a wetland scientist, and they look at the plants, they take soil samples, they look at historical records, of course, but they're primarily looking at fauna and flora and conditions. And what they will then do is they will basically put stakes in the ground to mark what they find based upon a scientific analysis. What is the demarcation between upland and wetlands? And those essentially demarcations basically become a new delineation. Those delineations do change over time, sometimes significantly, totally dependent upon the conditions of the situation, the weather, etc. I mean, we've had, delineations within a couple of years changed by several thousand square feet. So it is, if there's a delineation on record, it is basically the conservation's up to conservation to determine whether or not they're going to use that delineation or ask for a new delineation to be made. If it's usually, several years old because of these changes, the commission typically asks the applicant to go to, unfortunately, the expense and trouble to get a wetland scientist to go out there and make a new delineation. And that becomes part of the project and the delineation of not only the wetlands, but then, of course, as you can extrapolate, the different bordering lands, right, 100, 25, 50, et cetera, that are to that new delineation, right? So whatever was delineated on the site for this project probably was not true 20 years ago. It probably was very different.
I'd just like to make a comment on that. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never, ever seen a wetlands get smaller.
Ah.
So,
Okay.
her comment that it was all wetlands and now it's less, that's 100% not true. It just, they don't get smaller, trust me, they get bigger. So having a wetland line approved for 3 years, it may change a little bit, but not much. But, 20 or 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, yeah, they change,
Yeah.
I'll tell you. But not smaller, they
Okay.
definitely get
I see.
bigger.
I see.
So, this is a current line that was flagged, and you guys, your agent approved this, right?
Right,
Yeah.
the NRED.
Okay, and I looked at aerials of this whole area, okay, and the subdivision in the back. And I found that the wetlands, because I went back, 20 years and looked at the aerials, then I looked forward. I tried to do a comparison to see what's going on in the area. And this particular wetlands has pretty much stayed about the same, hasn't really changed. Behind the houses on, whatever that street is in the back there, Palomino, whatever that is. It's changed a little bit, but not much. I only saw one encroachment. Some guy had a shed in the wetlands there. But other than that, the wetlands in this whole area have pretty much, in the last 20 or 30 years, have stayed pretty much the same. Nothing's really changed.
Then I'm sorry, I was misinformed by town council when I purchased my property in 1997. I will go through my records so I can forward you that information.
Okay, that's fine. Are you sure it was town council?
I do. I live in a 40B, and I have all my records. So I'm just wondering what did happen that I was informed by that. So I will definitely look at my
Because I'm
records.
just saying that that's a conservation issue, not a town council issue per se.
And that's how the town council represented with 40B. I think there was a lot of issues then, so I'm not quite sure where it is at.
Okay, well-
And I remember seeing the markers, because I'm one of the people that have lived there, in the longest in my neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah, so thank you. I don't want to take up everyone's time. It'll just give me more research to do, so I appreciate
Okay,
it.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for your comment.
Yeah, thanks for your comments.
Okay, now, to you.
My name is John Detterman of 86 Palomino. And I have a question, a comment, and then a few things to share. So if there's replication on an adjoining property, how will that work? If the home, we understand, can't be built until the property is divided, right? There are two distinct owners at that point.
Well,
So if there's replication on one property, what's the permanency of that replication?
okay, so thank you for that segue, because I was waiting for this to come up. Here's the issue with, thank you for the effort, but here's the issue. The issue is that classically, if you have mitigation done, you want the Conservation Commission, and correct me if I'm wrong, people, but this is how we pretty much play, I believe. The Conservation Commission usually asks for one or more considerations such that that we have the ability to go back and inspect that site, because any wetland plants or whatever it is they put down, blueberry bushes, et cetera, we want to make sure that they take, right, that they grow. The whole point is to recreate the wetlands, or recreate a wetland-like, habitat. If we come back in a year and everything's dead, well, we haven't met that objective, okay? So the point is that those liabilities are on the owner of the property, okay? They follow the property, follow that. So anybody who buys that property then is under those same considerations. So if you actually have mitigation on a separate property, okay, or on the same property, and now that property is split, the liability is now essentially split, okay? Because it was actually for this property, but it's owned by someone else, and this person has nothing to do with this property anymore. They're completely independent, right? So how does that work when the COCs are for this property, but someone else is actually the owner of the property upon which they are on? That makes
That's my question.
no sense.
That's my question.
I can
My
answer
point by way of question.
Okay,
I can answer that for you.
Okay.
First of all, it's under common ownership right now, okay? The lot's gonna, once this is approved, and you get the order of conditions for all the plantings and everything, the lot will be subdivided, still owned by the same person. Until this is built, it's not gonna be sold, and it's gonna be to his daughter. So as far as an order of conditions on lot 1 and lot 2 will be up to the responsibility of him. He won't be able to sell anything. He won't be able to sell his house, he won't be able to sell that house until the order conditions are met. Once the certificate of compliance is received and recorded, then they can start selling the properties off.
So One Paddock Lane is sold. There's this area of, I don't know what you, remediation?
Remediation, yeah.
Remediation, thank you. There's an area of remediation that satisfies the board. It lasts for a year, the plantings take. One paddock lane is sold, the new owner says, I'm a lawn freak, I want lawn. There's nothing to stop that person from ripping their corner out and making whatever they want.
Well, that would be a violation.
Of what, though? What
Because you've
follows
turned
the
it- what-
deed on one paddock lane?
No, but I'm saying that you actually specifically have turned it into a wetland. It's now protected. See, now it becomes protected.
Jeff, could I
Yeah.
jump in real quick?
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt, this is John Nero Beta. I do just want to note that, to the resident speaking brings up a good point about, the possibility of perpetual conditions. So the commission does have the ability, when they issue an order of conditions, which does get recorded to the title chain of the affected properties, that there is the ability to institute conditions in perpetuity. So even
Right.
when the order of conditions is closed out, the certificate of compliance is recorded, and the deed is no longer encumbered by the order of conditions, that certificate of compliance being on the title chain still can, institute these conditions in perpetuity. The commission could condition that, the areas that are naturalized need to stay naturalized unless explicitly permitted otherwise by the commission. So there are mechanisms to have that protection in place, and yes, people can go and do as they will, but to Jeff's point, at that point, it's a violation.
I mean, the bottom line is, it's not clean, it becomes messy, right? I mean, it's fine if you have the same owner, that's true, but then it becomes very messy once it's not, okay? Because the whole point was to suffice another separate property, which is now completely detached at some, I mean, again, it's at some point in the future, right? So, it's unclean. You can do it, and he's right, you can set conditions in perpetuity, we've done that, but it's not clean.
But we know that conditions in perpetuity don't seem to hold because this property, the wetlands essentially have been unchanged in the past 30 years. So the proposal is to put a house within the 0 to 25. So my point is, we can do anything, we can say anything we want, but leaving nature as nature intended it is the surest way to ensure that there's no degradation. Second point is, the homes were built about 30 years ago, and wetland regulations have changed. So references to the existing homes in relation to wetlands, they don't matter because they were built under different regulations.
Well, I think they probably were built before the bylaws, right? I mean, remember, there are two bodies, right? There's
Right.
there's the Wetlands Protection Act, the state, and then there's basically our Franklin bylaw, more
Yes.
restrictive, right?
Yeah.
Two pieces, so.
So that's my point, that because neighboring properties wouldn't be able to be built today
Right.
because of the bylaws,
Correct.
shouldn't inform a decision on this property.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is, we are forced to look at what the laws are today.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And those laws did not apply when
Right,
the
correct.
other homes were built.
Correct,
So
correct.
they were built in a different day and age.
Yeah, no, you can't use those as comparators, you're right, I agree, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a handout, may I approach to
Sure.
distribute?
Yeah.
And I have one that I'll make the same. I'll make available to the audience.
Sure.
You want to do that for you? I would very much appreciate that. This is for the commission and that's for the audience, so.
These are the audience?
Yep.
Okay.
Anybody who's interested. I forgot to save one for myself, though. If I could.
I'll give you back one of these. Okay.
And I have display board behind me. Where's the best place to position that for the audience and the camera?
You got
Tyler, is there a place
Oh,
where
thanks.
he can put that so that the camera can catch it?
Thank you very much.
I know the camera's looking down right now at him. Is this the same that you have on your easel back there? Maybe if we angle it to.
Chris, can you capture it?
So I'm a macro thinker, so I'd like to ask everybody to think macroly with me for a few minutes. In the roughly 2 years we've been discussing this parcel, we've been focused very much on the details of the particular parcel. And I'd like to take a step back and look at this parcel in relation to sort of the larger picture. So I asked a question in one meeting about the wetlands and runoff, and there was reference made to ultimately the Charles River being what we're all worried about. And the Charles River sits approximately 500 feet from this property. You can see that. Is everybody oriented on the map to where the property is? It's depicted as number 118.
100% not true.
It's a tenth of a mile, which I calculate to be 500 feet.
Totally not true.
What would you say the measurement would be?
It's probably around 9 to 1,000 feet.
Okay. Somewhere between 500 and 900 to 1,000 feet, the Charles River sits. So when we speak of the Charles River, we speak of, where the MIT and Harvard crew teams practiced along Memorial and Storrow Drive. The Charles River is actually a close neighbor of this property. The other point is the property at number 127 on the map is town-owned conservation land, approximately 8 acres, which essentially abuts this property. You can see the connection of the brooks or whatever those bodies of water are.
I don't know where the hell we're at.
Sorry, say again?
I don't know. Where's Paddock Lane?
Right here.
Right near the town line.
Near the Bellingham line.
Want me to point, will it help if I point on the larger map?
Yeah,
or-
So that's it there, okay. Got it.
He's got it in here.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
So you see Paddock Lane, you see the property that we're talking about. Do you see the property numbered 127?
Yes.
That's town-owned conservation land. And this graph shows the body of water there that ultimately leads to another portion of the Charles River. So my point is, there's a,
Well, I think, wait, so Charles is over here.
the Charles is on the left and the right, on both.
I believe the one on the right is Mine Brook, though.
Is that, it says it's Mine Brook.
Yeah.
Is that-
Right,
But
right,
it
right.
runs into,
But it does run into,
Yeah,
I mean, you know that is a.
Runs into the
feeder-
Charles
It's a
down
feeder into the Charles.
Okay, so where are we going?
So the point is that we talk about runoff, we talk about the Charles as being a distant place. It's very nearby. The other point is, if I understand correctly, and I'm not a scientist, I've educated myself through this process. The red highlighted areas indicate the presence of vernal pools, which are critical to wetlands, to, the whole wetlands process. They are very close to the property in question.
Are you saying they're certified vernal pools or we're calling them vernal pools?
This map, I didn't manipulate this at all. This is from the town's GIS website.
Okay. Thank you.
So nothing on here was put here by me.
Okay.
So the bottom line is that bottom line is that there are conservation features proximal to the site, period.
What you've taught me is that we need to be concerned about the impact ultimately to the larger bodies of water.
Okay, so typically, when we talk about impact of bodies of water, things like streams, things running into the Charles, what we typically are looking at are things like runoff. I mean, for example, if I'm going to put in a huge parking lot, right? Now suddenly the water doesn't go into the ground anymore. It runs off, like say, the edge of the driveway. If that runs into the wetlands and carries all the sediment and everything like that, that sediment then gets transported into Mine Brook, for example, and Mine Brook basically touts it down the Charles, right? That's a bad thing. We try to keep that kind of thing from happening. So in that kind of situation, just as FYI, the builder would typically put in some sort of catch basins or some sort of whatever, some sort of recycle type of apparatus to try to prevent the silt and whatnot to go into that body of water that would go into the trails, right? But we don't have that kind of runoff issue as far as we can tell, because one of the components of the NOI is to actually look at that. So you have to look at that the engineers have to look at what are the impacts of the surfaces that you're basically, the non-permeable surfaces, right? What are those impacts to the property and to runoff? Are they within sort of accepted specifications that are allowed for a property of that size? So these are the kinds of calculations that are commonly done for any NOI application. It's actually required as part of the process, right? So if there were such things, a review by, like say, John Bader, who was talking a moment, would catch that. And they would say, whoa, wait a minute. You may need some sort of, runoff remediation to basically readdress where this water's going or where these things are going. But there doesn't seem to be anything like that, even though it's right next or inside, the very close boundary of the wetlands. It doesn't look like that is happening here when you look at the contours of the property.
So it's the contours of the property, which I don't believe are depicted here, but the contours of the property make us not have to worry about the groundwater seepage going to either the Charles River that's within 500 to 900 feet.
Well, the question is, does the project impact what is the current hydrology? In other words, does the hydrology change significantly with this project? Or, if that's true, does the applicant have to propose some other remediation for that not to happen? Because ultimately what you want to do is you don't want to change anything markedly given the hydrology and things like the runoff, et cetera. But that you're trying to keep that from happening.
So by hydrology, that includes the body of water that abuts the property, right? So there is a body of water behind one paddock lane.
If that is water, if that's a water body that is protected under wetlands, then yes.
So I'm not an expert, but the map I'm looking at shows the body of water and shows the wetlands, right?
Yes.
So how can changing how can building in that close proximity not impact that?
Again, that really depends upon the site.
I'm sorry,
It depends upon the site.
So
And the-
in this
and the
case,
project and the construction.
in this case, how can there not be an impact?
It's
In-
not
in-
being built in the wet area there.
Right.
This is it's being built in the buffer zones to the wet area.
But I guess what
Right, but does some,
What is it, is that gonna impact the runoff, et
How do you
cetera?
know, how do you know that this is not going to, basically pour a bunch of, water constantly into the back of that area, goes right into the wetlands, and then you have all the sediment going in, right? Okay? And that's for the construction, thanks, you, to basically, identify and ensure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, so I can guarantee you and the butter that we are not impacting the Charles River whatsoever. The site itself is being contained on site by the roof infiltration and the swales. We're not even impacting the wetlands, let alone the river or the body of water in the back. And if there's a vernal pool off-site, according to this little map, that's well over 200 feet away, your rules are 100, the state is 100. So the site itself is combined into that one area. It's not impacting anything. You have more impact on the wetlands from Beach Street. If you're looking at the plan, you'll see that the 25-foot buffer is out onto Beach Street. There is no drainage on Beach Street. That is all runoff. So the street gives more of an impact to these wetlands than this site's going to develop, totally developed. And it's definitely not the Charles River.
what's not the Charles River?
The impact of anything. The Charles River is, I'm gonna tell you, it's over 1,000 feet away. I'm gonna guess about 1,400 to 1,500. It's not even close.
Who's ever directing the view that we're seeing right now? Can you pull just a little bit further? And
Yes, so this is Andrew Tebow with Goddard again, if I may. I pulled my screen up just to clarify. I just didn't want to cut off anybody's comments. The water bodies that are in question right now, the potential vernal pool you can see on my cursor right here, it's not located on one paddock lane at all. It's offsite to the north, and our work area is actually down in the southeastern portion of the property here. So it's actually closer to the existing house. Like what was already said, basically the only thing that we try to make sure in these instances is we're not coming up against the vernal pool and impacting the vernal pool habitat, and we're not directing any stormwater to that area.
Right.
Containing it all on site alleviates that concern. And I did take a look at the Charles River that's located off-site. On aerial photography like this, I would usually take a conservative view and look at some of the coves that come off of it. Even if we take that, we're looking at about 1,400 to 1,500 feet from the project site.
Okay.
As the commission knows, we have jurisdiction out to 200 feet that we look at, and so this project certainly would not have any impacts on this area.
Right.
if you go from one paddock lane to the former dam site at Pearl Street,
That's over 1,000 feet.
okay, so we agreed that I calculated 500. If we say 1,000, I'm just pointing out the proximity to the river on that side, and then the brook on the other side.
Again, I can guarantee you, we're not impacting the Charles River
Well, again, if you,
whatsoever.
but again, that would have been brought up in review, clearly. Okay, I mean, yes.
I have another handout, if I may, and I didn't bring a lot of copies of this because it was a last-minute add-on, but I have photographs of the site, from the sidewalk on Paddock Lane looking to the property, and then a Google Earth image that approximately shows the area in question. So can I start circulating that to the commission, and then we can pass it through the audience? The blue in the, thank you so much.
There's just one set they're going to pass on.
Yes, sorry. I can make more copies, but the blue in the pictures is water. So if I can help you orient the picture if you want. It looks like sky, but it's water. And that's the body of water behind one paddock lane.
Okay.
Is this taken on the street, like, did you go in, or did you, into the property, or did you?
So if you turn right off of Beach Street onto Paddock Lane, I stood on the sidewalk of Paddock Lane looking toward this property.
Okay.
So the point of the Google Earth image is to show that it's completely undisturbed as it is now.
Could I just ask that you ensure that copies of those photos make their way to the Conservation Department, whether it be by email or if you have copies of them?
I will leave them here tonight if that's sufficient.
If you want,
Yep.
okay.
They become part of the record.
Absolutely, that's my intention. I don't have any further comments, but I'd be happy to answer questions on my comments.
Does anyone have any questions for speak? No?
Would it be okay for me to see those pictures too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did have a question on the drawings itself. I'm trying my best to flip through like the previous revisions, and really what stands out is the, I think the biggest change was that garage. But really, so really you're taking that footprint. You have, what was it before, 16? From, if I'm reading this, to the west there. It's 8.6 feet now from the top of the wall. So really, am I correct that you added, you included the garage in that footprint, but you pushed it back into the wetland?
Into the house. No, we moved the wall and away from the wetlands.
Away from the wetland, okay.
So the back of the house right now, the only thing that's changed on is we made the house shorter. Okay, and we made it narrower too, right? It was 30,
No, well,
this was wider.
the original.
Yeah, we made the whole house
original
smaller.
rectangle is based on just what we thought we could put there, but I had no design for a house. Now I've kind of played it out. It's actually more like these townhouses that are built in Brookview with the front entrance, double car garage. That's what I'm looking to do there, so
Yeah,
if
so
you want to look at this, I can.
So we moved the wall closer to the back of the house. It was 10 feet, we moved it a couple of feet. We had it curving around the wetlands, but we straightened it out. We made the house smaller. On the north end, we shortened the house away from the 25-foot buffer. Took off that deck. We took the walkway off the front to cut down on the impervious areas. We added the swales, for infiltration. So yeah, everything was shrunk over there.
You know better than me, but we put the retaining walls there to minimize the impact when we actually construct the retaining wall. We're gonna put, we'll construct the house, we put the retaining wall to minimize it, but we're gonna do it with, prefab pieces of concrete that just drop them in place. Set it up, and we don't have that much fill to do, because
Yeah, there'll be scraping on the ground, and then if you look at the detail to the right, you'll see that we have a small pad, and then it's only a couple of feet tall. This is only gonna be like about that tall.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry. Does anybody have the 0 to 25-foot buffer bylaw in front of them? I meant to bring it. I just want to make sure I fully understand what the intention is.
Well, the 0 to 25 is also called the no-build. I mean, that's what the bylaw says. It's a no-build. So, typically, we do not allow building in the 0 to 25. And the 0 to 25, if you were here last time, was the big sticking point, was that we had so much incursion into 0 to 25. the applicant has done their best to mitigate that by removing structures and pulling the house back. But there still is in the back and the north side some encroachment into the 0 to 25.
And I understand that sometimes happens during construction, that zone is disturbed. But I
Well-
think it pretty much outright says you can't build anything on it.
Yes, that is true. And we do have some cases, though, that, again, grandfathered in. People had built long lawns and stuff long ago, which are now in the 25 foot, right, okay? And that would be considered, quote, pre-disturbed, which is not the case here. But then we look at that a little bit differently because it's already been done, right? I mean, are you gonna take down trees in the 0 to 25 when it's in the middle of a lawn? It's a little bit different than if it's in the middle of an existing wetlands. So, in this case, nothing's been done, it's wild. So, yes, and that was a big sticking point last time, yes.
In how much of the 0 to 25 has been,
Eliminated?
that was to be disturbed is now not going to be disturbed?
Yeah, how much of that has been, and I guess, you had that on the tables, right? You guys have that on the
I
tables?
don't.
I think it's on the plans.
Oh, yeah?
I have the disturbance now total.
Okay.
If you look at the plan previous, you might be able to do the difference, but right now, in the 0 to 25 is 1549.
Okay.
And that's disturbance, that's everything.
Right.
The
Right.
swales,
Right.
everything.
Right.
The 25 to the 50 is 4,327 square feet.
Mhm.
The 50 to 100 is 3,605 square feet. So the total project is disturbance is 9,481 square feet.
Mhm. But is that 1550, right? The original 1550, which was, or the 0 to 25?
But as far as I can tell, the house still sits in that,
Well, that's what he's saying. He just said that, yeah, it does. Part of the back of the house does still sit in the 0 to 25, that is true, yes.
It looks like to me that
Excuse
the,
me.
oh,
The back of the house does not sit in the 25 anymore, 0
Here-
to
here-
25.
no, it does.
It does,
It
a good
does.
chunk of it.
Right here.
Oh, you're saying that's the back, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
he was-
saying-
I'm
saying the
sorry,
very back.
I'm sorry.
Side, I'm sorry.
That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
middle, you could say middle.
Yeah, yeah.
The middle.
Okay, is there anybody else that has any comments online or in the audience? Because I think at this point, I mean, again, I think what we owe you is some sort of polling to give you an idea as to where people are sitting. I think that would be good to do with your.
It would be good, thank you.
can I make a comment first?
Yes. A quick one, please. We've been at this for a long time.
So I just want to clarify, how much of the house is in the 50-foot buffer? Because it looks like to me the whole house is in the 50-foot buffer.
It is.
It is.
I have disturbances, I don't have the
Yeah. but I-
house square footage.
Looking at the line of the 50-foot line, it goes through the front yard.
Yes.
In our bylaw, it says no build 25 to 50 feet. So the whole house is in no build zone.
Correct.
No foundation, no slab, no nothing.
We understand that. I'm pretty sure in his notice or whatever, Chris?
Chris, yeah.
Chris submitted, requested those waivers. I'm almost positive he did.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Consider.
If I may just chime in here quickly.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I apologize, but yeah, this is Andrew with Goddard. That's exactly it. So the notice of intent does submit waiver requests with these, and with the waiver request under the bylaw, what we typically attempt to pursue is mitigation at approximately a 2-to-1 ratio for those encroachments. So under the bylaw, 0 to 25 is a no disturb, 25 to 50 is a no build. And there are projects and there are situations where lot constraints simply don't allow for it. If this were to allow for that and there was room to build outside of these zones, then absolutely that sort of proposal would not make sense. Because we have the zoning setbacks to worry about here, this has been minimized to the extent feasible. So we pursue these mitigation opportunities under the waiver. The waiver does not just ask, we can't get out of these zones, so can we please build in them? The goal is to if we must build in these, then let's find other areas on the property that we can improve. And so that was where we came in with all the mitigation planting surrounding this property, but also the removal of 1,900 square feet of lawn on the existing property that would not happen without this project. So that's where that waiver request comes in here, a sort of relief from those sections of the bylaw. While I have you guys, the other thing I would add to this is I do agree and appreciate the commission looking to give us some direction. I think that though I have not personally been involved in this the entire time, I know this project has been through quite a bit of discussion and we appreciate all your patience. So from the applicant's side, our goal is to work with the commission on this. The intent along the way has been to hear the comments, to make the revisions where we can, and to find a design on this property that would allow for this to be built with waivers that offers mitigation to the point where the commission is satisfied. So as we're going through sort of the straw vote, the positions of the commission, if it is your opinion that this, as it is shown in front of you now, is not approvable, if there is something that can get it there that you would like to see, please do feel free to let us know. The goal is to work with you to the extent that we possibly can.
Okay. Can we take a poll? Okay. I will start with Richard. What do you say?
I vote to approve.
Okay. Louis?
No.
Not approved.
Okay.
Not approved.
Well, we don't have to go any farther because that's quorum. So as it says right now, the answer would be no. You would be denied if we voted on it right now.
As of now, is there anything else I could do? More replication or something?
I think, I'm going to speak for the commission. If I'm speaking out of turn, please people, right? I think we have too many people on the commission that feel it's simply an unbuildable lot. It's an unbuildable lot in any configuration where you have things emerging to the 0 to 25 or 25 to 50. That was pretty much the feeling I got at the end of last time. I didn't know what the distribution was, but if the distribution is what it is today, and that does remain the primary driver, then I would say it's very unlikely this project would be approved in any configuration.
All right. Can I have like 2 minutes with my client in the hallway?
Certainly.
Just a couple minutes.
Certainly. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Recording stopped.
Guys, I think we're ready?
Yes.
Okay, noting that the time is 8:18, for the person taking notes, we are back.
I'd just like to say that when he came to us for this, our first proposal, and we were talked out of it by Goddard to come to do this route, our proposal was actually going to be to fill in the wetlands, okay, which were allowed, to create the 50-foot buffer, and then replicate the wetlands at 2-to-1. We actually have a plan like that. So we'd kind of like to come back at your next meeting and show you that, because this is a lot better option than actually filling and grading, but you would get a 2-to-1 replication of wetlands. That was going to be our original proposal. So we would be 50 feet away, we wouldn't be in the 25-foot buffer, you know, everything would conform to your rules and regulations. We'd be filling in enough wetlands to create that scenario and doing a 2-to-1 replication. And we'd like to bring that plan back to you.
Well, I would
We
say-
didn't, you know, that was our original
Okay.
idea. Goddard said, no, we should, you know, work with you guys on working in the 25 and the 50. So we'd like to at least not take your vote tonight.
No, okay.
Okay.
Sure, okay, fine. I think that's fair. Again, just historical perspective, especially for commercial properties, I will say, when there's been a need to fill in wetlands. And we have accepted in the past a significant replication area where the net has been 2-to-1 or close to 2-to-1. So
Yeah.
we have done that in
Yeah.
town several
No,
places.
I realize that, that's why I
I'm
said.
just saying, so that, to me, if you had that option and the current option on the table, I would tell you that first option is probably more likely to be feasible than the one that you're proposing now. So I think you're making a good call.
Yeah, because we would be in conformity with your rules and regulations
Right.
as far as being out of the 25, the
Right.
house being away from the 50,
Right.
as your rules call for.
Right.
You would get an additional wetland area, 2-to-1.
Correct.
I mean, that was what our first plan was gonna be. So I'd like to bring that back and,
Well, the thought was that was more disruptive to the wetland.
Well, I mean, that is, again, that is true,
You know, so that-
but what is the net at the bottom, at the end of the day, if you're actually proposing significant replication?
No.
And again, given the conditions that will make sure that is actually maintained, actually created and maintained, then at the end of the day, you suffice the obligations of the wetlands protection, right?
we-
Of the habitat
outside of the
restoration.
50,
I mean, you have done that, that is.
Well, we had a house outside the 50 on that
Yeah.
plan.
I mean,
so I'd like to submit it to, I'm sorry, Tyler, right?
yeah,
I can get him,
yeah. I
some
think
copies
that-
and some more copies, and we can come back in another 2 weeks or whenever your next meeting is.
Yeah,
not
it was
sure
2
when.
weeks, yes, yeah.
So, I mean, because I have it drawn.
So, commissioners, can I say, this does sound like at least a reasonable plan. It sounds like something we would want to see. Is that reasonable? Do you
Let's
think?
just continue
Yes.
on it until next
Well,
meeting.
especially with the runoff from Beach Street.
Yes.
And that is a significant, area of runoff. So if you think you can try to mitigate some of that. then-
That's a good idea, actually, it's not bad.
Well, that would, really can't do that. It's on a public way. The DPW could maybe put some drainage in there or something.
Well, they should, I mean, clearly.
I mean, that's something my client really can't
No, that's
do.
totally outside our department, yeah, that's true.
I mean, it could be fixed, it could be fixed, they could put some catch basins in, some sump basins, and catch the runoff on the street, you know, before it goes into the wetlands, or do a swale with some treatment, but it's all in the layout, so I mean, you know, but it can be done.
Does it make sense to bring this back as one parcel or two parcels?
Well, I guess that is a question. Well, so you're not going to want to divide this up if the project isn't gonna go.
No.
I
No, it
understand
wouldn't make
I
sense for me
understand,
to-
I understand the order of the, yeah, I understand why.
That's why I didn't get a house design either, you know.
Right,
I just
yes, I
got it.
understand, right.
And as your guy pointed out, it's what's called a Form A plan. It's a
Right.
one night, there's no public hearing,
Right.
it meets all the zoning regulations,
Right.
in and out in 10 minutes.
Right, understood, yep, yep. No, we understand that, we understand why you're doing it this way, yes. Okay, I think that's a good plan. Guys, are we all right? Yeah?
Thank you.
I mean, I think, yes?
We're good?
Yeah. Okay, Mark, do you have any comments on this?
Hey, let's at least take a look at it, right? I
Yeah.
think we own that, so I'm good with that.
Okay, let's do this.
We appreciate your time.
Okay,
Appreciate
so,
your time.
well,
Thank you.
thank you, yeah, thanks for working with us. Let's take a look, continue.
I'll make a motion to continue the NOI for One Paddock Lane to, what's the date?
What is it? How about
June 12th.
June 12th?
June 12th is 7:01.
Okay. Is that a second?
Second.
Second, okay.
Vote to continue.
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 Mark,
Vote to continue.
continue. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you.
Good night, thanks.
Ridiculous.
Somebody's ridiculous.
Someone's mic is still on.
I think that was one of the,
No, I know,
People
I
from
know
the
who it
pub-
was.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody's unhappy with us.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. What is it, you can't please all the people all the time? That is something, whatever.
Something. That's what we did.
All right, so let's now go to the second hearing for the evening, which is the ANRAD for 47 Partridge Street. And this is where we were having an issue with the way that the banks are being determined on the riverfront. And from what I understand, two things have happened. One, we had a couple commissioners go out and take a look themselves at, actually, get out there.
And
Thank you
Roger
very
got
much
bit
for the
by a-
people that made that happen. That was, thank you very much. And we also had some rejiggered plans, I think, including the redelineation of the boundaries of the banks, given what they found during that process, I believe, right?
You're right.
Okay, so Rich, I'll let you take a look.
Good evening, Rick Goodrow with United Consultants, and you're right on the money, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Goddard had sent out Chris Fratarelli to delineate the wetlands via a kayak. So he actually traversed down the river. Again, I wasn't there, but unfortunately, Chris isn't available tonight. He's out of the country. And Goddard has their staff member here who can give you guys a brief overview of the process they use to do this and walk you through it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, and that was what we were asking for last time. What was the process? And so that's really what, what the commission was hoping to get from this continued B.
Perfect. I am happy to provide that. Again, this is Andrew Tebow with Goddard Consulting, filling in for Chris tonight. A bit of context for the commission. I am aware of this property. I was also part of the original delineation out here. And so I've been out here. I'm well familiar with the property, and Chris filled me in on what he's done to date. Can you guys see my screen if I pulled a few photos here?
Got it. Yep.
Perfect. I will give you a view from Chris's kayak. I think this is the best way to describe sort of what happened out here. So as the commission's well aware, originally these banks were not flagged, the reason being that it was significantly flooded, difficult to traverse out here, and so we originally used aerial imagery to approximate the river based on what we could see. The commission, peer review and DEP, of course, called out that is a difficult and often not acceptable way to do things, and so what we had done is Chris himself went out on May 20th, as the timestamp photo show, with a kayak and delineated the banks of the river. So in a case like this, when we have flooded river with sort of floodplain BVW, all flooded up, beaver activity ponded, there's a few procedures that we take to establish the bank here. And these have been well established. There's been sort of cases where this has happened previously that set precedent on the protocols that we use here. And so one of the main things that we look for is terrestrial versus aquatic vegetation. So in a similar manner to how you have wetland plants and upland plants, you have terrestrial vegetation and aquatic vegetation. So they may be wetland plants, but they can't grow in actual ponds, rivers, things like that. And so when Chris is out there on his kayak, he's observing where the vegetation changes from aquatic species like the green arrow arums that we see, the pickerel weeds that we see that grow up in the water, to things like reed canary grass, woody shrubs that would grow on the edges of wetlands, but they can't grow within channels and ponds. And so that's one of the areas that helps the line here, and we can see in a few of these photos. One of the other things we look for that's actually well demonstrated by a few of these photos is the actual banks of the river as we go through. Let's see if this helps me scroll here. Perfect. So there's a few excellent photos that demonstrate where we can find an actual bank. So although this is all flooded, when you're out there on the river from a kayak, you're able to determine where there's a flat floodplain wetland and where there's actual banks and slopes that come down within the river. So Chris was actually able to use the paddle itself to determine where he's sitting now is a drop off where there's a river channel. Where he's up in here, it's a flat, flooded wetland where the water, due to beaver activity, has just ponded up and spread out. So we use the topography of the area, we use sort of the soils that we find within the river, and we use the types of vegetations that grow along the edge of it. This is another good example of that, where interior of his pink flags, you can see aquatic vegetation, pickerel weed and arrow arum. They're both plants that grow completely in standing water, widely considered aquatic vegetation, but the flags themselves are tied on woody vegetation that would need to be on the banks. So all of these banks were flooded and couldn't be accessed from the land. From the kayak, you're able to identify this. The other thing we look for is what we call unidirectional flow. It's a definition that we use for perennial rivers, that water needs to be flowing in sort of a continuous direction, where we can actually say that there is unidirectional flow. Oftentimes in flooded wetlands, you'll see water flooded up and sort of moving around different grades, but you can usually see a defined channel interior where you can actually follow a flow path. And that's what Chris identified out here, and what can be seen in a few of these photos, that there is a defined flow path interior, and that coincided with the vegetation breaks, with the topography that he identified. So he went out there on May 20th, he kayaked and flagged the entirety of the river, and luckily Goddard, we have an in-house Trimble GPS unit, so what Chris did was he shot it with the actual GPS unit, so as he's hanging the flags, they're also being surveyed, and then we added them to the plans. So he did that on the entirety of the river. He was able to kayak and traverse the whole thing. And there's now, similar to how we would do a normal delineation when we'd walk the banks and tie flags, there is now actual delineated flags all the way from 1 to 72 that begin off-site and end off-site. And they give us the entirety of the riverfront area on-site.
Great.
So that's what was done. And I know a few of the commissioners were able to meet Chris out there on the 23rd to take a look at this. So we believe now that we've finally been able to flag the last remaining item on these plans.
Do you have any comment, please?
We're good, I'm good.
Yeah, we were out
Nice
there.
job.
Sort of it's a fun example. You don't get to do that very often. Take a kayak to work.
And I think that was like one of the days where we had sun and we took advantage of it. So, yeah, we went out there, and, you know, I think at that point, Chris had already got the information that we were looking for. For us, it was a site walk, to kind of understand also what that area looks like. It is pretty wet. I did want to kind of point out that, compared to this, it's having the visual, having the aerial, and just kind of have that delineation, that center line, and then getting, I flipped through both, like what that center line looked like in the previous plan and what it is now, and there's things that shift to is it Northville, to the east, so, you know, there is some. you
There
know,
was some shift, you're
There's some shift, so
Absolutely.
that's why it's, you know, and it definitely impacts close, you know, where you're looking to build, so, or looking at what you're doing, what you're gonna wanna do. So, that's why, you know, we're looking to get that information as close to us as we can get it, even if it means going out there, so. But I appreciate Chris going out there and, you know, going back out there to do that.
No, we're good.
Does anybody else have any comments, any more comments?
That's what I was looking for.
Okay, so I think we've been pretty suffice for, right, yes? Mark, do you have any comments on this?
Hey, just appreciate the extra effort, and I think it did pay off. Yeah, feel much more comfortable, you know, so I'm good. You know, if we're gonna move forward, we do need to have somebody read the ORAD into the record there and hopefully move forward.
Mark, this is John from Beta. I just wanted to remind you, the ORAD that we had worked with you to draft up does still reflect the mean annual high water of Shepherd's Brook being, you know, pretty much digitized from aerial imagery. So just need to update that draft to basically go through the flag series that they ended up going with out there. So, you know, the commission, if they want to, can always close the hearing tonight, and then as long as you're meeting and issuing within 21 days, you can always issue at the next hearing.
And any way you can think of, John, I know this is asking a lot, could you maybe just give us some verbiage where we could adjust that? I just need to put into another meeting. These guys have been really patient, did this extra work. I mean, I'm not speaking to the
delay this
commission
2
here.
more weeks.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, personally, I'd love to see us get this done. I you know, defer to the rest of the commission, but I'd love to get it wrapped. This was great.
Here's all you gotta do is, you can read through the ORAD as written, but when it gets to talking about, mean annual high water riverfront area, that's just gonna be approving, instead of what's written, approving flags, mean annual high water 1 to 72.
Okay.
So it's more.
Jeff, does somebody have the ORAD there they could read
I
and
don't.
add that in?
Yeah, I don't think I have it.
So really
Thank
it's
you,
just a-
guys. We appreciate that effort to close it tonight.
Yeah, we want to, believe me. Is that the one? Wait, what's that called? Wait, where's it?
I have a hard copy if you want me to bring this
Yeah,
up.
why don't you give me that?
I got it.
Okay. Faster. So, John, do we simply read the findings in, or we just ignore the
You gotta read the whole
whole
document.
thing, the entirety?
Yeah, just read it verbatim, except when you come to the, you know,
Oh.
Shepherd's Brook delineation, it's, instead of that digitized piece, it's, you know, to John's point, flagged as,
Okay.
as delineated by flags 1 through 72. You gotta read it verbatim, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, okay. So I'm reading the ORAD, okay, will need to be updated. So this is the ORAD for 47 Parker Street, map 220, lots 13, 14, 15, Franklin, Massachusetts. The order of resource area delineation by the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and Regulations, the Town of Franklin Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations, for DEP file number 159-1308. This is a list of submittals for the record. There's a report entitled Abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation prepared by United Consultants, Inc., dated December 23rd, 2024. This attachment includes a cover letter, a WPA Form 4A, filing fees and local forms, and a butters information. There's also a letter entitled 47 Partridge Street, Abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation Peer Review, prepared by United Consultants, Inc., dated April 9th, 2025. There is a plan, one sheet, entitled Donovan Estate Existing Conditions Plan, dated December 23rd, 2024, and revised on April 9, 2025, prepared by United Consultants, Inc., signed and stamped by Andrew C. Murphy, M.A., PLS number 35042, with a scale of 1 inch equal 50 feet.
Quick on that one.
Yes.
We got revised drawings, so does that new one have to be, do you guys have seen that yet already? Because this is referencing the old drawing.
The old drawing,
So the current drawing was last revised on 5/20/25.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we got that submittal.
Good catch.
Yep.
Good catch, Louis.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. Continuing down the list, there's a letter entitled Permission for Land Walkthrough prepared by Signay family, Edward, Marion, and Robert, dated March 28th, I'm going to say, 2025. Registry of Deeds documents entitled Town of Franklin, Resolution 08-62, acceptance of deed of open space in Franklin Chase, residential subdivision and confirmatory order of taking, dated November 12th, 2008, and peer review letters from Beta Group, Inc., at 89 Shrewsbury Street, Suite 300, Worcester, Massachusetts, 01604, dated March 21, 2025, and April 25, 2025. The information about the wetland resource areas under MGL 131, S 4310, CMR 10, and covered under the Franklin Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 181, and associated regulations. This ORAD approves the delineation of the resource areas series flags as drafted on the ANRAD plan. And it says dated December 23rd, 24, revised April 9th, 2025, with a scale of 1 inch equal 50 feet, incorporating revisions reflecting the Franklin Conservation Commission, Franklin Conservation Department, and Beta Group, Inc. Review comments from review comment letters from Beta Group, Inc. dated March 21st, 2025, and April 25th, 2025. These are the findings. 1, bordering vegetated wetland, freshwater wetland flag series GCA 1 through GCA 80. 2, mean annual high water to establish riverfront area as presented on the plan of record based on a digitization of the MAHW boundary observed on aerial imagery and corroborated by the applicant's field observations. That will also.
And that's where we're making the adjustment to
Right,
now.
so that will need to be changed, right? That'll be-
yeah.
That needs to be changed.
Flags 1, as indicated on the plans, flags 1 through 72.
1 through 7. Okay. As indicated on the plan by flags 1 through 72. And then 3, the boundaries of bordering land subject to flooding, elevation 169 feet, NAVD 88. And then the modified delineation. I think we're only reading 2, right, Mark? The second one, the boundaries of BLSF are approved insofar as the published FEMA flood profile.
Yeah,
right? Only 2?
Yep.
Yes?
Unless they change, right? That's the way that reads, right?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So as stated there, yep.
So, right. Flood profile remains consistent with what is available at the time of the issuance of this ORAD. Any letters of map amendments, revisions that alter the base flood elevation at the site shall supersede the boundaries of BLSF depicted on the plan of record. And that is the current ORAD read into the record with the 2 changes that we need on the plan itself, updated plan, and the means used to establish the mean annual high water. Okay, all right, good. So I think with that, I think we can vote to close the meeting. Yes?
To approve the ANRAD, right?
Well, I think that what we need.
We have to close it?
Well, we have to close it. We close it, but then they're going to submit we're going to have this at the next meeting to approve, but that, they don't have to come back with that.
No, I think we're approving it as stated
Oh,
for
we
the
are approving
record
it as stated?
tonight.
Okay, I see. I
Yeah.
misunderstood. Yes, okay.
If everybody's okay with that, I mean, I think we sent these guys out to do the extra work.
No, okay,
I'd
no,
love to
I
see
don't
it.
want, we don't want them to come back if.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. before we continue, is there anyone in the audience or online that has any questions or comments about the project before we close and vote to approve with modifications? No, fine, let's do it. First, let's,
Is it to approve or close?
well, we should close.
Approve.
Well,
Oh, okay.
well, we should close and then approve.
Yep.
I'll
Because we're not
make-
taking more testimony. That's it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we close the discussion for the ANRAD for 47 Partridge Street.
Okay,
Second?
okay,
Vote to
close,
close.
Close as stated.
close as stated.
Close?
Close.
Close?
Mark,
Vote closed.
close. Now we go to approve with modifications, stated modifications.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ANRAD for 47 Partridge Street with modifications as stated.
Yeah. Okay, second.
Second.
Vote to approve.
Vote to approve.
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 Approve?
Mark,
Vote to approve.
there you go.
Thank you.
Finally.
Rick and Andrew, thanks for the extra effort.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Of course, guys, thank you for your time on this.
Okay. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
All right. So, no, we're not opening Panther Way, that's just listed as a one still. Okay, now we go to 444, we're opening the NOI for 444 East Central Street. It says here that there is a recommendation to continue, and primarily because the scope and fee payment for peer review for Beta had not yet been received as of 5/21, and we did not have or did not receive any new information to review. Hence, the recommendation to continue to June 12th at 7:03 PM. Is there anyone here for 4444 East Central Street?
So the applicant had requested a continuance. I believe they're planning on revised materials following the zoning board of appeals hearing. Once we have that, we'll send that to Beta. But they requested continuance to June 12th.
So, I mean,
Their scope and fee did make it in, by the way, so that, it did finally arrive, so we're good.
okay, all right, okay. All right, so.
Yep, thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you. So, it would be good for, if anyone has any comments on this project, to wait until we see the revised materials, because right now we don't know what we're working with. So let's just wait and hold on that, please. And then, meanwhile, I'll take a motion to continue.
I'll give you a motion to continue the NOI for 444 East Central Street at June 12th at 7:03 PM.
Okay, second?
Second.
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
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 Continue?
Mark?
Vote to continue.
Continue, thank you. Okay. All right, and then lastly, we have the NOI for 260 Daniel Street. It says here that there's a recommendation to continue to June 12th at 7:04 PM. And there are a couple of discussion points. Is there anyone here for 260? Okay. Is the applicant for 260?
I represent her, and I believe the engineering firm is online.
Is the engineering firm here?
Yeah, the engineer, that's me.
Okay, so it says here that this is your initial, so I'm just wondering if there's anything you wanted to walk through, summarize, let us know, et cetera?
I mean, I guess we could walk through the site, and I guess what we're proposing. I know we haven't had peer review return any comments yet. But anything, yeah, if the commission would like, I can take you through the site and what we're proposing for now.
Before you do that, can you state your name and
Yeah,
for the record,
correct.
and who you are? Just for the record.
It's for the person, it's for the person making the
Oh,
minutes.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, who are you?
I seem to be having some internet troubles. I apologize. My name is Brian Hassett, civil engineer for Gary Aaron Houghton, representing Diane Ramondi here.
Okay.
And my name is James Thornhill, I'm the contractor on the job.
Thank you. Okay, so basically, we're waiting for the peer review. we just wanted to note to you guys, we did receive some abutter concerns about erosion, that, I don't know if you know of this, that probably, I don't know if you want to hear.
He had texted me a while ago and asked me to, we gave me a 45-day notice
Okay.
to remove sediment on his property. I told him I wasn't doing anything until we had approval by you guys
Okay, all
to
right.
do anything.
Okay, right. And the delineation of the wetlands in September of 2024. I have a question for Mark. When you wrote these notes out, what does that refer to? The delineation of wetlands in September of 2024?
You can actually disregard that. I talked to John Nero about that. My bad, I meant to remove that, so.
Okay.
It was a procedural question. It's immaterial, my bad.
Okay.
Our applications for a notice of intent, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah. I was just curious when you went through the NRAD process, and it's all set there. No issue with that. It is filed as a notice of intent, and the NRAD delineation has been part of that. So we're all good.
Okay, so you guys can present anything you want on the project, although, again, you haven't received comments back from Beta, right? Or nothing, whatever you want to do.
That is correct. We have not received back comments from it.
Okay, right, so, but then I'm obligated to open the floor to anyone in the audience or online to comment about the project.
If we're continued, I'll wait until the continuance.
Okay, all right. So if there's, are there any questions? I guess there's no questions at this point for the applicant, right, from the commission? Okay.
I have kind of a question.
Yep.
So you have an existing slope there, approximate area of existing fill, and you're proposing to go and modify that slope and put actually make it so that it isn't more apt to erode, right?
Correct.
So I can't
The
understand.
island was pretty much unusable the way it was.
Yeah, I mean, you're not modifying this slope at all. I don't see how you would be, I think you would be mitigating any runoff or erosion to the neighbors by doing this project.
Before we started the project, we dug a trench about 3 feet deep, put stone in it. And we kept our material on the other side of that to try and mitigate any issues that may come out.
Yep.
Unfortunately, with the quantity of rain we've gotten, some of it did go into the neighbor's yard. A year or so ago, he had asked me to clean up some of the debris or put loom in their property, that this property, he believed had washed out some of his loom. So I graciously did it at my cost, never asked for a dime, but I brought my little machine in, spread some loom in between his trees as a gesture of good faith. And then we dug that trench.
Okay.
Apparently, when they did the driveway, they put a pipe aiming towards his yard. So we put that pipe, drainage pipe from the downspouts into the same trench. And then
Okay.
the soils in the ground absorb 99% of the runoff.
All right.
I do have pictures of that if you guys need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Richard, do you have anything else? No. All right. I will then, anything? No, okay. I will then ask, is there anybody in the audience that has any comments or questions about, so if you want, one by one, come up to the mic, say who you are, where you live, and ask your question or make your comment.
My name is Steve Joannis, 262 Daniel Street, and just some corrections. I did not ask for any loom or anything. I can show the texts asking that that you don't involve my property. So that's my only concern. I don't want to be involved. I've been living there for 24 years, and so this area's all been filled in. The driveway was modified, and now the water comes into my yard. It's gone like under my shed, and I sent some photos to Brika Lee and Tyler Pozlaski. So I don't know if you have those, but it shows the collapse.
On hand right now, but I believe they're in the Google Drive for the commissioners with the reports.
Okay.
So that's my main concern.
So you're on Daniel Street.
262, I'm the abutter.
The abutter, which one? In
To
this?
the right,
It's on the right?
correct.
You're not doing anything up there, are you?
That's we're doing it in the backyard.
Yeah, you're working in the backyard.
It's in the backyard, but it is on his side of the property.
So, is there a way to put that up on?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Want me to put it up?
If you
When I
have
looked at it online,
yeah.
on the prints, I think it was like 169 is my property. It's listed as 169, like the lot numbers,
Just give me a second.
but I could have that wrong.
When you say it's on the right, what direction?
If you're facing the house,
Okay, so it's west.
It's the downhill side.
I guess. If you look at that map right there, that plan, everything in green, that's been added.
That's me,
That's the
Joannis.
land, that's the fill that was added right there.
Okay.
So if you look, as we're looking at this diagram, to the left, the sort of, the area where the arrow is, it says proposed weed-free straw, kind of like right where that arrow is, that's all collapsed and spilled into my yard. And so that's my goal, is to not have the water run off into my yard. And right now, it's all sediment and everything that's gone.
That's what mitigated. It doesn't come in the yard anymore. We put a swale in the yard, put a dam on the top of the hill. And like I said, unfortunately, because of some of the heavy rains we had, it did blow through. And we fixed it immediately, as requested.
Well, so,
And I said I would clean up your property after they give me permission. I'm not doing anything until I get permission.
so I don't know if Tyler
That
has
area
those
was in the
photos.
25-foot, no touchstone.
Well, I mean, he's posted them, we have a Google Drive that captures all the
Yep.
materials. So they are on, I mean, looking at them, I'm seeing the photos that we have. I don't think,
You don't have them ready to display here. I think Louis, if one, you're
Is it
also
the-
accessing.
Is it the email from
that's the email, right?
262?
It's pictures attached to that.
262.
Should be there, yeah.
Yeah, that's me,
If you want,
260.
just check to make sure you're
Can
looking
you
at the
share
same
that?
one.
Give me 1 second.
So how old are the pictures?
Those are probably 3 months old, 3-4 months old. It hasn't changed, though. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, it's worse. I mean, because more rain has come through, but.
Can you share that?
Jeff, this is John Nero. Can I ask a question of the commission?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to confirm, so we are doing the peer review for this as requested by the commission. We already went out to the site. My colleague Anna Hasnar went out there, and she's working on the letter now. We should have that over shortly. But I guess one thing we're a little confused on is, if this is intended to be like an after-the-fact notice of intent, if this was requested by the agent or the commission at some point in time, because it appeared that a lot of work appears to have already gone on at the site, for which we're not sure if an order conditions is already
It
obtained.
was after the fact.
Okay.
I came down to the town and looked at the maps after one of the neighbors had pointed out the fact that he had believed there was wetlands in the backyard. There's
Gotcha.
nothing on the
Okay.
maps that show it. Nobody could answer the question. Nobody could tell me what it was, and when I brought it to the engineering firm, after the second time the gentleman did, they still couldn't answer it. It took somebody from the committee, maybe even this gentleman, Tyler, pointing out the fact that it was a perennial river or a drainage
Perennial
easement
stream.
that had been created for the subdivision down the road.
Gotcha,
Because it was
okay.
man-made, it
So-
becomes wetland. I did my due diligence.
No, that's fine, yeah.
So, sir, I have the photos up here.
Yes,
If you want to just narrate a little. of what-
Sure, so that orange pole is sort of demarking my property. So my property is on the right, that's my shed there on the right. And this rise here is the new work, that you're seeing on the left, that hill. It's sort of, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 feet tall, but that's all. And it just, that and the recent driveway update, has directed the water flow through my yard that didn't go there before. It probably, I don't really know, I'm not a geologist or whatever, but it probably went down the back, you know, but now it goes over the side. And if you look at that other photo, right there, you can see that's the collapse. That's sort of where it collapsed, and that's spilling into my yard. So I took that photo standing in my yard, so you can see all the sediment and everything that's
I
gone.
stabilized that after he had asked, after we realized.
That's how it stands today. If you were to go there right now,
And if you
and I
were to
would,
go there
and
and
I,
look at the
excuse me,
property,
please.
there's no water.
I didn't stop you while you were
Sorry.
talking, please.
Sorry.
If someone from the commission is willing to come by, I'd be happy to host you to take a peek at it yourself.
So this plan that's in front of us is designed to stabilize that slope?
Correct.
Yes,
Am I getting that right?
yes, correct.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood it.
We would be done if we didn't, if this didn't come up. We would have had it completed by now.
Yeah.
Jeff, if I could just offer one recommendation, I would highly suggest that erosion controls be installed, like yesterday. That's pretty steep, and that's only gonna continue moving. I've seen this happen enough.
Yeah,
I'll be happy to do so.
yeah, I think that would be prudent, frankly.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do so.
Okay.
I just didn't want to do anything prior
No, no,
to
I
this
got it.
meeting.
Yeah, but we would rejoice. Because that's exactly the kind of sentiment that we try to stop, so yeah. Okay. There's another photo, I think, the next one?
That's this one.
Oh, this one, oh, yeah. So this is just this is from the shed?
This is from your shed.
Your shed, okay. You're just looking into the thing, yeah. Okay, got it, yeah. Okay, yeah. Understood.
We also didn't feel like we had any issues. There's structures in that zone. So I honestly, we had no idea there was any wetlands in the back until the neighbor pointed it out.
Right,
And when we came up to look at the maps, it still didn't show any.
right, okay.
Yeah, I don't know who that was, I don't know anything about wetlands, I only care about my own property.
Right.
So,
Okay.
not to say that wetlands aren't important, I understand the function.
No,
of
no,
the
no,
business,
no,
so I
no,
don't
but-
mean to denigrate that, but
But,
that wasn't my
Yeah.
concern. It was just-
yeah, but typically, in a situation like that, we would ask the builder, to put in some sort of socks or something to catch, again, assuming it's not like crazy rain.
Yeah, we had put a trench in to mitigate it. And
Right.
unfortunately, it
Right.
didn't hold up
right.
over the course.
Now, we
of
have
time.
had like insane rain, we know that's true.
Yeah.
Unnatural quantities of rain, that is true, we know that's true. Okay.
So you got an 8-foot,
I'm sorry.
you got an 8-foot hill, basically,
Yeah, it might even be 10 in the far back.
yeah, I'm just looking at the contours here. It's,
235 to 247. That's 10 foot.
10
almost
feet,
11
yeah.
foot. Huh?
Yep. Okay.
So where's that 3-foot trench? Sorry.
It was on the property line, on that side of the yard. I dug it on 260's property line, and then I curved it into the bottom of that hill, swale.
Okay,
And it was specifically to catch any water, to prevent this from happening.
I see.
He had
It's
also
gone now.
complained about the downspout drain being drained into his property. I don't blame him. So we turned that pipe into the swale.
Right, swale, yeah.
To try and mitigate it.
Okay.
I had nothing to do with the driveway, but if we do the driveway over, I will make sure that it is aiming towards the backyard.
Right.
And when you guys do go out and take that site visit, you can clearly see that I dragged the backhoe bucket through the property to keep the water away from his side of the yard.
Good.
And I built a berm up on that side. That is still existing because we can't fix it until we get permission.
Right, okay.
So can you see the trench in the pictures?
No, you can't, it's subterranean. I put it down underground.
I see.
I believe I have pictures of it, if you want to see them, I can get them to you.
No, it's okay, I was just,
Okay.
that's,
No, I can
Is it
vouch
like a-
that it was
is it like a
there.
French drain
I saw
kind
it.
okay.
I don't know what I was looking at, but I saw a gravel, like a gravel
Yeah,
line.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
makes sense. Yep.
Thank you.
So I had some questions.
Mhm.
So this mound of dirt, is the slope, was it there, is this from when you dug the trench? Is this left over?
No, that is stuff we brought in to level the yard off.
That's stuff that you brought in?
we brought that in to level the yard out. Came from a lot from the sewer work in Franklin.
Yeah, because
So-
the original was like, it's like, if you walk down and look behind those houses, it goes like this. right?
It went pretty
The whole-
straight down.
Whole
whole
area just
street,
goes
yeah.
straight down.
So where are the wetlands in,
And the far back end
Yeah,
of
the
the
back.
property.
Yeah.
If you look at the map right there, I'm not sure what view you have.
Well, if you go way back, there's a brook
okay.
that
Well,
runs back,
It-
way
It's
back.
it's a drainage easement that got turned into a brook over the course of time.
Is this the way?
That's the way it works.
Yeah, and that's fine, but nobody could answer the question when I seen the marks on the town maps. Nobody
What
said
is
it
it?
was
Yeah.
wetlands, nobody said it was a perennial river.
Right.
Even when I went to the engineering firm, they couldn't answer it.
So so you put this soil is from what you've done to try to level it?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a notice of intent after the fact.
Mhm. Because all of that loose soil is being blown everywhere, right?
Blown?
No, it's not blown, this is compacted fill,
Yeah, it's compacted, it's not
compacted?
blowing anywhere.
yeah.
But it doesn't look that, okay.
I mean, it's
Does
washing
it
That,
really?
it's sand or
Okay.
gravel.
If you're gonna run water down the face of it, compacted or loose, doesn't matter, it's gonna wash it
It's
out.
gonna wash it out. So,
I would have loom on it by now, I had it all set up, until this all came up. We would have vegetation growing and it would have been done with by now.
So until you actually stabilize the slope,
It possibly
you're gonna
could get
have the
runoff.
possibility for runoff and scoring it, so you have to protect the slope toe so that it doesn't
Right.
overflow that and channels it someplace into a settling pond or something to keep that from happening. And
So there aren't
the
any,
weather has overswept his ability to take care of that.
so the particulates are not being blown into the air?
I'm sorry, what?
So the particulates from this mound of sand, that
I
they're
don't believe so.
So,
And when something comes up that's the same, they can attest to that.
so does the wetland actually show on this?
If you're looking at the, I don't know, I'm sure what view you have, I think this is the top of it. If you look at the front left side of that, just
Yeah.
disappeared.
What happened to it? Chris?
it just keeps cutting off, so,
Yeah,
so the,
yeah, we have a problem, we have a technical problem. This thing keeps cutting off and cutting out and cutting in.
You can see it on this map right here.
is it a green?
Right, so you can see here it's
Okay.
highlighted,
That green line on the bottom,
Is
then the
zero?
yellow line is the no-touch zone, the 25-foot mark. And then the red one is the no build.
Right.
And again, I had no idea there was any problems. His sheds are in that area, so I had no clue that it was a problem. The neighbors that came over and talked to me, his pool is in that area. Again, I had no clue that there was any wetlands, even after coming down to the town and looking at the maps.
So that green line down there is the way,
Yeah, the green line farthest to what I'm looking at the bottom left.
it's what, the 100-footer or the 50?
No, that's actually the actual wetland, that, or what they deem as the edge of the drainage
Perennial
easement,
swale.
perennial river.
culvert, looks like a little drainage that goes
Oh,
through the back
so
of the neighborhood.
If you keep going down past this gentleman's yard, it actually gets channeled, it gets put into underground,
It's like a cement tube.
so
So if his shed is in the 25-foot.
I can't attest for that, but it appears to be. I'm not an engineer and I didn't measure it.
What's the
The
freaking
cement
scale?
footing for that was there when I bought the house 24 years ago.
There was a shed on this property as well, past this. So you can still see the cement mark for the cement footing to that one.
So I guess my question, like, just my immediate observation here, so you've done this already, right? So you're.
This
so
is a
it's-
notice after the
this-
fact.
This is after the fact?
Correct.
And nothing's been, like, as far as like, any erosion control, nothing, so,
We put the swale, we put the stone perimeter in to prevent anything from going in this gentleman's yard.
and what about the perennial stream?
We're not close enough. I've checked it, I keep
It's
checking
not
it.
even on his property.
Well, it's on, well,
Oh.
it's on the it's not on his property, but it's, you know, it's to the south of that, so.
Yeah,
whatever.
I've been going down there and checking it periodically, and nothing has crept that far down. But I'm willing to put erosion control in. I just didn't want to do anything without permission.
No, I mean, that's,
I already got in trouble, well, we're already here because we did the work before we got the notice. So doing any other work in there would be a violation, because we got a stop work order.
yeah, because I guess really, you know, how's, you know, I'm looking at the photos, how it's, you know, you have that soil fill that's eroding to his side. You know, I'm asking the question, is it also happening going down
It's
to the
eroded a
other
little
side?
in the back, but we're 30 feet away from the wetlands, and it's pretty vegetated in the back, so it stopped before it got into that area.
You know, we've had some rainy,
We have.
really, it's been a really wet,
We
you know,
have,
spring, so.
and that's part of the reason why that swale on the side of his property is there.
Yeah.
But as soon as we found out or realized that it had blown through our dam, I went down there and I built it back up so that the water would channel to the other side of the property.
So you're planning on putting a compost sock around the toe of that thing?
Sure, I'll do whatever you guys require.
Oh, well,
If you guys want me to do it now, I'll be
Sure.
happy to do it now before the peer review.
he should do it 5 minutes ago.
Well, yeah, we're asking you, please, can you get that done? Yes. Yes, that's true.
I mean, so here's another thing too, I'm seeing plans here from 3/19/25, right, so.
I'm sorry, what?
March 19, they're from, their construction drawings from 3/19/2025. So on here it does call out compost socks. You know, it calls them out, like, so,
Understood.
and so where,
But they got a work stop order, that's what we're trying to say.
Okay.
He's finishing it. Says he told stop.
okay, so you do have them on the plans, like I said, it's just.
Yeah, he just needs to put
We'll
it in.
follow through with
You gotta
whatever's
get to a
required.
point where, you know, usually those things are put in beforehand, so.
Understood,
So,
but we got a stop work order.
Okay.
So I didn't want to create another violation. I'm sure it would have been beneficial, but stop work order is stop work.
Yeah, but
You know,
Can
I
we
didn't
agree
wanna
then
cause
that
any other
he should
problems.
put in some socks
Yes,
down
I
there?
think
I mean, it's on
everybody's
the
agreed.
drawings, it's in
Yeah,
there.
well, he hasn't put them in, so we gotta tell
I'll be
him.
happy to do it.
Yes.
I'll have it done before the end of the weekend.
So why wasn't it done on March 19th with the plans?
We had a stop work order.
On March 19th, you had a stop work?
We would have
order?
never filed any of this if we didn't get a stop work order. We had no idea we were in a violation.
So,
Yeah, well, they started working, they didn't know there were wetlands there. So they actually did the work, and then they were told about the wetlands.
One of the neighbors came and pointed out the fact that he had gotten in trouble at one time for
Right.
doing something. So I came down to town, I asked the questions, nobody could answer the question, there was no wetlands delineated on any plan in town. So there was no way of knowing there was wetlands there.
so looking
So we
at,
would not file a notice of intent
But Lou-
if we had no idea there's wetlands there.
quick question, when was the timeline of this, when did you start working on this site?
Over a year ago now.
Over a year ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing, no plan for done, it's just kinda,
Yeah, we were just filling our yard and trying to make it usable.
yeah, it's,
And
Well,
then
that's what
as-
this whole plan is about. to
but
tell
now,
us
but now
what
we
he's
got
gonna put.
plans, so it's,
Well,
okay.
now that we have
Plantings
plans,
and stuff.
and if they're not approved, I can't go and do stuff unless you guys say to do it.
Okay.
And I'll be again, I'm happy to do whatever you guys require, but stop work order, I can't, am I wrong, Tyler? Am I wrong? If you guys tell me not to work, and I start doing stuff, I'm gonna get,
No, you are correct.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Okay.
You are correct.
so I'll be more than happy to do whatever you guys request.
Yeah.
If you're telling me, go in and put the silt fence in, I'll do it.
Okay. So independent of the erosion controls, we have the NOI, right? And right now, we have an NOI that's been filed, but it has not been reviewed, right? So the next step is to have Beta review the NOI as filed, right? That's the next step, okay?
Bingo.
But to do that, we need to receive the fee,
Ha,
What fee is that?
right? So we need a scope and fee from Beta to review 260 Daniel Street, so the way the process works is this. The conservation is an outside consultant, Beta, you've heard them talk, John is their the primary person we work through, he and his team, they review any NOIs that are submitted. Or we have our agents review them. Right now, our agent is out on maternity leave, so John is backfilling for her. So he then acts as a quasi-agent to review the NOIs for completeness, consistency, anything, whatever.
Understood.
Okay? Then the findings, right, whatever, it's okay, it's not okay, whatever, point-by-point letter, it's created, sent back to the applicant, right? The applicant then responds point by point, right? I did this, not a problem, I don't agree with this, blah, 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 okay? That comes back.
I understand the
All right.
process.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that that process doesn't start until the commission gets paid to pay Beta to start the process.
So,
But to do that.
Oh, Jeff, just the,
I'm sorry.
sorry,
Go ahead.
just a quick heads up, we did talk with Tyler about this a few weeks ago, I think. So this is, since it's a residential project, the way the commission has it set up while Regal is out, is this just gets taken care of by the town. So
Oh,
we've
it
already-
does, okay, I see, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we've already started the
Understood.
review.
I understand, okay.
and it was
good.
my,
Okay.
it was my
Okay, good.
impression that the conservation agent was okay with everything we did. She
Okay.
had not a problem with anything
All right.
we've done.
All right, okay, then I am, in this instance, I am wrong, because it's a residential property, yes, okay, yes. All right, okay, so anyway, so right now we have, has the NOI been submitted to Beta for review?
Yes,
Okay.
they received the scope and, or they got the go-ahead following scope and fee on May 19th.
May 19th, okay, so they got the go-ahead to review this on May 19th. So
Okay.
it's in their hands, so we're waiting for them to come back to us, then a copy of that gets sent to you.
Would it get sent to me, or would it get sent to the engineering firm?
Question.
You can send it
Whoever's
to
name's
you
on
as
the
well as
submittal.
the represent-
Yeah, who's the
representatives
representative
and,
on
All
the
right, so
submit?
it would be- I believe it would be the engineering firm. And
Right.
that, if I'm not mistaken, the gentleman that's on the screen, he's the one who said that you'd have it shortly. He said he had already taken a quick look at it. Am I mistaken? Did I hear you say that?
Yeah, no, we just haven't received the comment letter from Beta yet, that's all.
I think John did come on and say that,
Yeah, okay.
right, John?
Yes, yeah,
Hey,
and
Jeff,
from my,
Jeff, I gotta sign off, Jeff.
Okay, great, thank
So-
you, thanks, Mark.
Okay, bye-bye.
And that's why we were continuing.
Yeah,
All right,
Yeah.
I'm okay with
That's
that.
correct.
Yeah.
And-
okay, so we know where we are.
And
Okay.
just so we're clear, I'm gonna put the silk fence,
Yeah.
or
No,
erosion control in.
No silt fences, socks.
Understood, erosion
Socks.
control, it's gonna be a sock.
Socks.
Yeah.
Biodegradable.
Yeah.
Just like you
By-
showed
by-
on your
by the
plan.
bio-
Yeah,
yeah, The
okay.
biodegradable socks, yeah.
I'll get and if you guys want them to come out and verify it before the next meeting, I'll call them up and ask them to come down and verify it.
Okay,
So it's biodegradable, you heard that?
I understand,
Okay.
yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, and I think there might be other.
This lady wants to speak, and
Yeah.
I would like this chance to speak as well.
okay, all right.
So if you could go ahead.
All right, wait, before just make sure that we're done with this specific topic, I think we're done, we're good. Right, so we know where the NOI sits,
I don't think
we
we're
know what
done
the
with this
process
particular
is,
topic.
we know that the socks are going in, we're all good with this, okay? So, yes?
This part, yeah, but I think that.
No, I know,
think that
but,
is the
okay,
case,
now you guys,
It's your meeting.
no, now you guys can, yep.
Hi, my name is Paula McMullen. I live at 28 Leanne Way. And I received a notice as an abutter. I believe, and I could be wrong about this because the maps confuse me, but I believe that the blue house, 260 Daniels Road, is that correct? It's a blue?
Yeah, blue gray.
Yeah.
Correct.
I believe that's right behind me. There is water back there. I believe that the building of the driveway has impacted the water. Because when I bought this place a year ago, they told me that they had more water than they normally had. I have been experiencing even more water. So the last thing I'd like to see you do is have your drains coming straight down, because I can look out and see standing water all year round. There's no problem with locating that water.
have pictures of the area. If you'd like to show me, I'd be more than happy.
I didn't bring any, to
No,
me.
I'll come meet you.
I'm
I don't wanna
happy
cause you a
to.
problem.
I'm happy to. But there is water there, and it is encroaching. I would say that it's encroaching now. There's an area where it's water, like halfway between her house and my house, like a pond, almost, maybe smaller. And then the water is coming like a stream up towards about 15 feet away from my my patio. So it's of concern to me that this situation is going to worsen.
Do you believe that the water's coming from the project we're doing?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know, but I do know that when I bought the house, they said that the water had never been that high, and that would have been after the driveway was done, evidently time-wise. Like I said, I wasn't living there then, and I have noticed an increase, and I understand that we've had a lot more water, but it is something that I've been concerned about, and this letter that I received as an abutter,
I'd be more than happy to take a look at it with you.
that would be
What-
wonderful.
I'm not a delineator, but
What street are you living on?
I live on Leanne Way. It's part of the Franklin Heights condominium complex, the townhouses. I believe I'm right behind 260 Daniel.
Downhill from it, or up?
uphill.
Uphill?
Down.
Downhill?
You're off Trooper Way, right? Down in that.
No, I'm not Trooper Way. I'm Leanne. It kind of takes a circular, half-circular path. The condo development does. I'm not Shaylin. That's the big
The
building.
vicinity map doesn't show it well.
She can
Doesn't show you.
probably see my unit from
Oh,
her
well.
back windows.
I'll share my screen, and if you can just point to that,
Where do you want me to stand?
Just give me 1 sec, please. Just because that's a plan, it won't show you the whole area. It'll take a couple seconds before it opens. So that's the property right now. Where do you live in proximity to this?
I have to put my glasses on.
Let me see if I can close this.
It's Louis, it's off of Trooper. Go
Is
in.
it uphill or downhill from there?
That's downhill.
Franklin
It's
Heights.
downhill?
Yeah.
This
Go
is
in
Trooper,
Trooper,
right?
it's towards the end of Trooper.
No, it's the next property over. The house that you're showing there, I believe, is his house. You're showing his house,
Right.
it's 262.
Oh, sorry.
The house in question is the one to the right of that.
Yeah, yeah.
No, not that direction, the other direction.
The other right.
There you go, right there. That's the property.
Okay, all right.
And is that,
That's her house?
That's 260, right?
You can't see it on that one, but this is the house, 260. This is Daniel Street. This is Lincoln Street right
So
here.
there isn't a house on here yet. There's,
Where do you say you live?
well, I don't seem to have an
Yeah,
existing
zoom out a
property
little
there.
bit.
Zoom out.
I don't see the development there.
Are you up in this complex?
No, she's over in the other direction.
This side of top, this side?
Yep.
Over here?
Do you know where I am? Do you know where
What's
I
your
am?
address, man? It's like-
What's your address, ma'am?
28 Leanne Way.
Yeah, so that's not behind.
So I may have the wrong
Is it
house.
over here?
So you're on the, yeah.
She's
You're on
kind
this
of
proposed
She's part of that project.
She's behind like 240 Daniels, 238 Daniels.
That project's down here.
Oh, so I am in the wrong. Well, then I'm not in the butter.
You are.
Well, you're in a butter because you're within 300 feet of the property.
You don't necessarily have to be touching
So.
the property.
Yeah, you don't have to be touching. Yeah,
Oh, I see, so it really doesn't impact me at all.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
And I report that I have more water there than I
It's,
used to.
it's.
well, if you're downhill from it and it's raining, then you're
Yeah,
gonna.
when people say a butter, they think it's a butt, like a butt tank. It's not, it's a
Okay.
distance.
It's a radius.
You're near it.
You're near, it, yeah.
If you touch that a little bit, you're gonna get a notice.
It'd be better to call you like a proximal as opposed to an proximity.
I feel like Emily Lieutenant from a million years ago on SNL. Never mind.
No, yeah, Emily Latella, that's right.
All right, so thank you anyway for the.
Yeah.
No problem.
All right. Next.
Excellent. My name is Ralph Kinnard. I live at 727 Lincoln Street. If you look at that picture, the property that they are developing on, I am the one directly behind it, okay? I'm downhill from it.
Yep.
There is an area behind my property that it's a rainfall stream, call it, right? When there's a lot of heavy rains, it fills up with water, but most of the time it's dry. I lived in the house for 25 years, and one day the town came to me and said, hey, you're putting your grass clippings behind your fence, and that's encroaching on the wetlands. And I said, well, no, that's on my property. And they said, no, you have to pay for, this council made me pay for an environmental study to determine whether or not my grass clippings were affecting the wetlands, a second environmental study to determine whether it was better to take them out or leave them in. And in the end, I was told I couldn't put my grass clippings there. I've since been paying a lawn service to cut my grass and take my grass away. And I had firewood stacked there, and they made me move it inside my fence property. I completely understood. I was unaware that it was a wetlands area, and I learned that wetlands doesn't mean it's actually wet. There's plants and foliage and things like that. Totally complied. I've never put another blade of grass back there. We all moved on. I had some trees on my property that were dead, and I didn't want to get into trouble, so I came down and I spoke to the town, and I spoke to the lady downstairs from the environmental department, and she came out and told me which dead trees I could cut in the middle of my property to prevent them falling on my house, and which ones I could not, and which ones I could cut down, and which stumps I couldn't grind. No problem. I understand. You're trying to protect the environment. That makes a lot of sense. The neighbor to the side of me, which is on the corner of that drawing, it's at Daniels, when she developed her garage into an apartment so that her family members could move in, she wanted to build a little deck. And one of the posts from her deck was 2 feet inside the 100 feet encroachment, and this committee told her she couldn't build her porch. She had to cut it back to this little 2-foot thing. But that's okay. People understand. They comply. When this project started, and I want to make sure that we're clear, when this project started, it was 2 years ago. This is not something new and fresh. They just started filling in dirt. They've been bringing in tractor trailer loads of earth. I'm estimating over 1,500 cubic yards of earth. It's got to be 40 or 50 feet wide, 40 feet deep, and it stands better than 10 feet high, right? It's a sand and gravel pit in my backyard. But hey, it's their property. They own it. As long as they're in compliance, they can do what they want. This gentleman, who I don't understand well, he graciously offered to fill in the dirt that he's pouring into his yard. And in terms like that, I went over there because they were bringing in earth. And I said, you guys can't do that. This is a wetland zone. He said, no, it's not. I said, listen, it is. And my grass clippings, they made me take my grass clippings out. And he blew me off. He had nothing to do with it. And I said, oh, well, whatever. He'll eventually get caught, and he'll get in trouble, and they'll make him take all the dirt back out, right? Then I went out one day, because my wife was out at the pool, and he was using a front-end loader to knock over trees. The trees he was knocking over were on the corner of my property. Actually, I think some of them were on my property. When I got my boots and I went out there, he had the backhoe in the riverbed, digging a trench from the riverbed up to the side of his property because he had complained about water flow. And I went over and I stopped him, and he said, oh, he put the dirt back in, he packed it down with the thing, and said, oh, I said, listen, this is wetlands. You cannot do this. You're going to get in trouble. And he said, well, I went down and I talked to Gus, and Gus told me it's not wetlands. And I said, I don't care who told you that. I'm telling you, I had to pay environmental fines for doing it. The third time I went over there, after they had put enough earth to build a house on, he was cutting down trees in the middle of the zone. Healthy trees. I drove my truck over to his property. I walked up, I confronted him. He said, I don't remember you. I don't think we ever talked before. And then when I said, you know, this is not your allowed, he said, oh, I thought you said that you believe people should be able to do what they were doing on their own property. So he clearly recognized who I was. Okay? He has put in thousands of cubic yards of earth, right? No environmental impact study, no study to determine whether or not it's changing the wetlands or the runoffs or anything else. And like these other folks, like I'm not a specialist at this, right? But I want a fair application of the laws and the rules that this panel has, right? It's being made to sound like they put in a few bucket loads of dirt, and now they're trying to remediate some washout, and they built from his property, the property sloped like this, it now is like this. When I went over and I spoke to him, I said, you guys put in all this earth. You're gonna put in like a riprap wall or some kind of retaining wall? He said, we're gonna plant vegetation to hold it all in. I said, I don't know how you're possibly gonna do that. You're changing the runoff, right? Instead of it running in a nice sloping area down to that little riverbed, when it does rain really hard, it's a sheer cliff on his property and into the riverbed behind my property. And he completely ignored me, right? He can say all he wants that he had no idea, right? All he had to do was come down here and ask. And if he came down and asked, somebody would have told him, they would have said, oh, the neighbor told you it's wetlands, let me send somebody out there, right? So whatever you folks decide to do, it's the people behind me's property. And I hope they get good use and enjoyment out of it, just like I want good use and enjoyment out of mine. But I would like to see an equal application of the rules. And I would like to see, if I had to do an environmental study, they should be doing an environmental study. If they want to determine whether or not my pile of grass clippings, which I'm not kidding you, was 3 times the size of this little bench, right? You were shaking your head, you remember me being here, right? It was three times the size of this, and I had to take it all out of there, right? And they brought in thousands of cubic yards of earth, right? When he says he graciously will clean up the dirt, that attitude, that condescending attitude, is exactly what put him in this position. He said to you a moment ago, we wouldn't be here if he hadn't gotten caught. He wouldn't be asking about putting in the socks if you hadn't stopped him from doing what he was doing, right? So it's not a small pile of dirt that we're putting some bushes in to try and hold it in place. It is a massive reconstruction project. Somebody should take a look at it and determine whether or not what they did is allowable. And if they're supposed to get permits, let them get permits. And if they're supposed to have environmental studies, let them get environmental studies. And if they're supposed to get fined, let them get fined. He was clearly aware. I made him aware. He referenced several times tonight, well, when the neighbor came over and told me. But I told him 3 times, right? 3 times, 3 different things, and he would have dug that trench into the riverbed had I not stopped him. Okay? It's been a 2-year-long project. Again, I hope they get all the use and enjoyment out of their property. They're paying the taxes on it, right? But this project, like the guy that was in here earlier trying to build the second house on his property, according to the rules of what this guy's doing, he should build the house and then afterwards come to you and say, oh, we encroached on the wetlands. Can I create a little lake or a little puddle over here to offset for the size of it, right? That's my personal feeling. It's my property is fine. There's, she mentioned water in that stream. There's water in that stream all the time, right? There are dry periods of the year where it dries up, right? I haven't necessarily seen any more water that goes into it. I think one of the things that exasperates it is that little riverbed goes into a pipe, which feeds into a drainage ditch on my property, which also is fed by the street drains and all the street drains that come down Daniel Street, right? So when there's no rains, there's this much water in the bottom. When it rains hard, that thing is 6 feet deep and the water is boiling at the top of it, right? Putting more water in there at a rapid rate of speed may impact things. I don't know. I'm not a geologist, right? I'm not an environmental guy, but neither is he, right? And nobody approved any of this. So if anybody has any questions about my piece of it, I'm great. Otherwise, I've said what I need to say. Okay.
As a
Good.
rebuttal, I wasn't near his property. His property is a corner of this. He did come over to me and say something, and I did come down to the town and ask. And that's when we found out nobody could answer the question.
If someone would like to come
And
out,
there's
I'll
nobody-
show you where the property
You
line
can tell
is,
me
and
that
I'll show you the
there's
tree you took
surplus,
down.
and how am I gonna believe that?
I'll show you where the tree that you took
I
down
can-
is
you
still
can- You
sitting.
can come by and see the tree that I cut down.
No.
It's out of the 50-foot zone.
No,
It's
the
not
one you
in
knocked
the-
down with a machine first, which landed
dead
in the
one?
corner of my property.
The dead tree?
The dead tree. That you were
You
knocking
may
down with a
absolutely-
bulldozer
You may absolutely
that
be
fell
right.
into my property.
You may be right.
I'm not maybe
I-
right, I'm 100% right.
Okay.
See, and the fact that, like, he's not
I had
apologetic
you
about this at
coming
all.
on the property,
He's not-
basically
he's not
threatening me
apologetic.
because I was recording me cutting the tree down.
What's that?
I was recording you
Guys,
cutting-
guys, guys,
What are you saying? He's not
guys,
apologetic
okay.
at all.
I don't, this is, I don't want.
I'm sorry. Oh, you've had your piece, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, so we're not dealing with that right now, we're dealing with this right now.
Understand.
We're dealing with the NOI that's filed after the fact, and that's what's being reviewed, okay? Anything that happened before that is before.
So, and people can be disgruntled and be mad and be frustrated, but our purview is what is before us. So what is before us is the NOI after the fact. That's what we have to review, that's what we have to rule on, okay? And that's what we're doing, okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm still confused about, when did you get the stop order?
A long time ago.
Well, there should be a stop, there should be a
There's
record
probably
of
a
stop
record of it.
order in the record.
I think there's one from maybe around July or August of 2024, but I'd have to double check. I remember.
That should be in the drive.
Okay, I'll check and see if it is.
And the applying process.
You had the stop order after in 2024?
I'm sorry?
You had the stop order in 2024?
Yes.
But the plans here are from March 19th, 2025.
Understood?
So in the plans, it's telling you to put in, I'm going back to this whole thing about putting in the erosion controls. So why, if you had a stop order, why was this submitted then? That's why I'm confused.
This is as we're saying here,
A notice of intent after the fact.
after the fact. So,
So the work was done
So this was
before
back-
anybody realized we're in the wetlands. The gentleman did say that we were in it.
I'm not talking about the
I
gentleman,
know,
I'm not
but
talking
what
about
I'm
the
saying is I
thing.
came down and did my due diligence. I
So-
did come down to the town.
Stop, okay. So whether or not the work is stopped is completely independent of whether someone draws up plans. So they could have still had a stop work order, but they still could have had plans drawn up.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because I didn't understand with this, with the erosion controls not being there, this man is having all of the dirt being poured into his
Mhm.
property, so that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around going.
So this is all done, so this is
I'd
all
be interested
done,
when that stopped.
more like
because I
that.
thought that was much more recent.
it's more like an as-built.
Well, we should have the stop order plan in the record so we can review it right this minute.
All right, I can see it, there you go.
And to your statement, you're right. It's more like an as-built that's half done. And again, this is because we had no idea there was wetlands there.
this is a plan that he wants
So
to
did you have any
mitigate.
plans from the first? No, was
We had no
these-
plans, there was no plan to do anything.
There was
She
never-
had the site engineered and a property line staked. So
So there was no engineer plans?
there was no engineer plan. You wouldn't need an engineer plan to fill in a hole.
Well,
So this is the plan that he
If you
plans
have,
to.
if you have conservation involved, then you need to have approval by you guys, so you do need a plan. But just to fill someone's yard, you don't need a plan.
Richard, what would you say the slope of that?
the
Oh, I
slope is
don't know.
kinda,
It's
this
2
is
to
where
1 right
we're
now.
bugged, and it's really
It's
like,
10 feet in, what the hell is that?
whatever, however length it is.
50 feet. So it's 10 feet high and in 50 feet or thereabouts. But this is his plan to mitigate this fill that he has put in there after the fact, and that's what we're addressing right at the moment.
Correct.
Whether we're going to say, oh, that's just hunky-dory, or we're not going to say, we're going to say something else about it. But that's what's in front of us right at the moment.
So right now, it's
Not
just.
whether
Yeah.
he screwed up doing it or whatever, but what he's
That's
gonna,
that's a totally separate.
that's a totally separate issue that hasn't come before us yet.
Correct.
So right now, it's just an erosion sock, and we're waiting for Beta, basically, right?
Beta to comment, he wants to put in some hydro seeding, shrubs and all kinds of good things on there to stabilize the slope, and that's probably a good idea to stabilize that slope. But that's what we're tasked with.
Unfortunately, we were missing a person that's vital to this drama, and that is the agent, who is not here. She's out on maternity leave, okay? Because the other scenario would have been, someone sees what you're doing, they know there are wetlands, they call the agent goes out, and says, not just stop work order, you're gonna get fined, because now you're gonna have to basically take all this dirt out, okay? Because you just basically put all this dirt in the wetland. Okay, I mean, wait, understand, that did not happen.
No.
But I'm saying that's something that could have happened if it did
Understood.
not. But we don't know why it didn't, because the agent isn't here, okay? But it didn't. So that's moot to what we're talking about right now, because the only thing, as Rich just said, that's in front of us is the NOI period. So people can get as mad as they want about that this guy's hands weren't slapped, but that's not before us right now. A violation and enforcement order is not what we're here about. It's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the NOI, period. They're not the same thing, okay? I want to make it very clear. Now, that doesn't say that there might not be one in the future. We have no idea. It's
Right.
not in front of us now.
It's in the Google Drive if you want to see the
Thank you.
July 2024
Thank you.
violation notice.
So, still a good idea to continue this. Because we're sure not gonna vote on anything right tonight.
Yes. Right, so the letter was July 17th, 2024, demanding work stoppage by July 31st, 2024. Right?
It's damn near a year ago.
Right. And I want to say, this is important, that one of the things that the commission is supposed to be doing is, if indeed you decide to do a stop work order, you have to ask yourself a question. What is that going to mean? Is there something that is certainly currently being impacted, right, that you need to stop? And it's one of the reasons why you're trying to stop the work. But at the same time, if you stop the work, then you prevent, as you did in this exact same case, for a year, you prevent the person from mitigating any further damage, right? So there's supposed to be a discussion, that, like the discussion we had tonight, was supposed to take place 1 year ago, okay, about that exact same issue, and apparently never did. That's on the agent, not on the commission, it's on the agent. That should have happened and did not.
I don't even remember the stop at work order.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. But this issue about, is there anything happening that needs to stop, is never brought up.
No. At least I don't remember it.
That's just, here's some work that wasn't permitted, sign this please, and notice my name's on it.
I don't think it came in front of us.
Mm-mm.
No, it was sent to me to sign.
Right.
Yeah, it's,
That's why you don't
Commission.
remember it, 'cause we didn't see it.
Right, you didn't see it. But we would have asked. This is a question we would have asked. I mean, so what's going on? We decided we need to put some, some silk cuts or socks on or something.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so it is true, you can't be blamed for something that you couldn't do a year ago because you never had a discussion with the commission, conservation.
And I do now.
Yeah, but I mean, that's on us. That's not on you, that's on us. It is.
I'll get it done for you.
I know, I'm just saying, I'm trying to be a balanced,
Understood.
we gotta take the heat on this one because that
Yeah.
conversation, look, am I right, Richard?
yes,
Come
you
on.
are.
Okay.
And if you didn't do it right, you didn't do it right. What the hell?
So, all right, so let's continue this. You're gonna get the thing in, you're gonna get the socks in, we're gonna get that thing debated, Dave's gonna review it, and we're gonna get this going, okay? So at some point, quickly, you can get back to work.
Wouldn't it require an environmental impact study to determine the effect of those socks?
If the socks are installed correctly, right, which an agent or John, in this case, right, can go out and review and look at, then usually that's will suffice.
But I was told, when it was my grass clippings, that an environmental impact study needed to be done for any changes in the wetlands, including cleaning trash out of it. It's exactly what this committee told me. So we're now talking about making modifications that will be within the zone of the wetlands, but we don't know what the environmental impact of those stocks would be, or any other changes in the environment.
How many years ago was this? that
I'm
you-
not in the wetlands.
No, I'm talking about the
4
gentleman
years ago, I
back.
wasn't in the wetlands either, 4 years ago?
4 years ago?
Yeah.
Geez, I don't remember being so picky.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked, actually. But I was actually told by the agent that came out, that it was a gentleman, it wasn't the woman from downstairs.
I'm sorry, would you mind just coming up to the mic?
Sure, sure.
The minutes taker can't
Yeah,
hear
you
you.
can't hear anything you're saying.
Sorry, so there's a piece of property that the town owns that's sort of sandwiched in there. And there was some,
This is George.
George, there was some trash that had washed down in there. And I said, okay, so what about that tire? Like, you know, should I pick that up? It's not on my property, it's on yours. And he said, no, you can't even pick up trash in the wetlands without an environmental impact study to determine what it is. So it seems like an unfair application, right?
Oh,
I had to
okay,
pay thousands of dollars.
Yes, wait, okay, stop.
Yep.
We got it.
Yep.
We got it. You should know that that agent is a different galaxy altogether, different than what we have now today.
Yeah,
And there's a reason for that. Because that person was extremely penalizing, okay? And that is not what we're trying to do with the commission.
I totally understand that, but
That's
if,
what I'm
if,
saying. I
if,
understand that, but the person that you worked with
yeah,
is not indicative of how we work.
I
with
totally
clients.
understand
We
that.
would never have
Totally
managed to
understand
do
that.
No, no,
But if an
you-
environmental
you guys are
impact study
focused on-
isn't required in this particular case to make the changes that you're talking about making,
I know. I
right, then
understand.
someone should reimburse me for what I spent to get that environmental impact study done, right?
Yeah,
For
but-
grass clippings,
Yeah.
you're talking about making modifications to
But-
stop the
but look,
drainage.
Let's talk about something even simple, and again, I gotta put this to bed.
Yeah.
I mean, when you come up in front of the commission and then you do something, you come back like 4 years, 5 years later, the entire composition of the commission could completely change.
I totally
You're
understand that.
talking to a totally different, I mean, it could be completely, ruled by people that, eat granola and nothing else. Who knows, right? You don't know. So it's a crapshoot who you're gonna get if you basically go, some periods of time. That's true for any administration, any agents, et cetera. So you really can't, unfortunately, I agree with you that
Yep.
in an ideal world, ideal state, the laws would be applied equally to everyone all the time. Well, clearly, as we have seen in this country most recently, that's not the case, okay? Please.
But they did say that it was federal law that any changes made within the wetlands required an environmental impact study. You are now approving changes within the buffer zone of the environmental impact, right, without performing that same study. If it's federal law, then it applies whether this committee is the same political ilk or not. It should be exactly the same.
I think that in your case, you probably weren't treated as fairly as you should have been.
Okay, I've never heard that rule. I've been here for 15 and almost 16 years. I've never heard that rule. Sorry, maybe that's what George said to you, but I've never heard that.
What rule?
That you have to do an environmental impact? No, I've never.
They made me do it to determine whether or not I could clean up the grass that they wanted me to get rid of.
Okay, I'm telling you, that's.
So I'm saying there should be an equal application. Either it wasn't the law then, in which case the town forced me to do something that was illegal.
Maybe.
Or it was the law, in which case the town needs to apply it now.
But isn't the applicant paying for Beta to do this?
No,
study?
because it's a residential application, so if the town covers the cost.
But Beta's gonna do it.
But Beta's gonna do
Okay.
it, yes, correct.
So essentially, it's getting an environmental impact
Yes.
study.
Well,
on
Beta
that.
does, they're the experts, yeah, of course. Yeah. So effectively.
To his argument, we are getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to identify any impacts. That is what they do. That is one of the things they do specifically, yes. Right, and denote any impacts that the commission should, they
So
will
the
call out
message,
to
so the
us.
message to the folks in the town of Franklin is do it and then ask forgiveness later.
No.
Right? That's exactly what
No.
you've said. It's exactly what
We
you
are
said.
not saying that, no, not at all. So right
This-
now.
This gentleman knowingly did something with 3 notifications that he will not have to do an environmental impact study for, that the cost will be borne by the taxpayers of the town, which was an egregious offense as compared to my lawn clippings. And the answer is, it was a different group of people, it was a bad guy who really beat up on the residents, right? That's a
Okay,
horrible.
so since you interrupted me, so I'm going to.
I'm sorry, go
interrupt you.
ahead.
So, right now, we don't know what is going on with this whole situation. So we need to have somebody go out there and take a look at it, and then come back to us. And Chair already explained that then possibly more penalties will come down the line. We don't know anything right now. Right now, the biggest thing is try to get Soxon to help this poor gentleman with the runoff in his yard.
Got it. To the bottom.
I'll say one thing, to just, you know, I think, what was it, like a year? Like, it was supposed to be, you know, brought up a year ago. But at the same time, you as the, you know, or you're the CM, you know, you do this, you're, there's also, you know, it's not like just leave it and forget it and then, you know,
We
wait
haven't
a year.
forgotten.
There's, you know, it's, you know, things, you know, if you can't, you know, if you can't continue on, you know, in my back of my mind, it's like, you know, what did I leave out? So, you know, obviously now we have a rainstorm, this guy's property, you know, now it's, things are running off. So now you have to go back and fix it. So in my mind, it's like, yeah, if, you know, conservation could have also, you know, the agent could have acted on it, but at the same time, you as the person that's in charge of installing this could have also, you know, helped us out a little here too.
As the person involved that's doing the work, I did. When I was notified that there was a problem, I went down there and rectified it immediately. I didn't allow it to continue. I didn't allow more washout going in the yard, but I couldn't do the silt fence. I didn't know where, one, to put it, two, what was gonna be approved of.
Okay, okay.
I needed permission to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I did emergency.
I don't wanna
Just
go
beat the
into-
dead
but I'm
horse
just-
here.
You know, I'm just saying that we're.
So I did do exactly what you're saying. I just didn't do it the way maybe you want it done. I'm not sure. But I did exactly what you're saying. I kept an eye on it.
Okay, wait, guys, we've done this. Okay, we've got this. Okay. We are going to,
Let's vote to continue
let's
this.
continue.
I'll give you a motion to continue the NOI for 260 Daniel Street to June 12th at 7:04 PM.
Second.
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
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 Continue?
Mark. Oh, he's sorry, sorry, Mark's out. Continue.
Thank you. Enjoy your night, guys.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
thank you. All right, so now, that's all the public hearings for the evening. Now we're going on to general business, and the first one up is minor buffer zone activities for 11 Chris Drive. Do we have anyone here for 11 Chris Drive? No?
Yeah, that's me, just the homeowner.
All right. So, what's going on with 11 Chris Drive?
When we had moved in, we ended up having some flooding issues, and while we were trying to remediate that, there was the old deck that was there was kind of dilapidated, so it had to be demolished. So right now we just got these kind of sliding doors leading to nowhere. So we just wanted to rebuild the deck. Depth should be exactly the same as the old one. It's just going to be a bit wider, but yeah, pretty much that.
Okay, so the question, just basically, do you have do they submit a map?
I have one up here, but yeah, it should be also.
Okay, I see.
You want to pull it up?
Okay, I'm looking
You
at-
say it's approximately the same size as the old one?
Same depth, so it doesn't get any closer to the wetlands. It's going to be wider, but it doesn't.
Wider,
it doesn't
okay. It's
encroach
not-
it. Yeah, just wider. Yeah.
Okay. See it.
Yeah,
I
okay.
do have it up on the projector too.
Okay, I don't see the wetlands delineations on this map.
Oh, there it is.
So these flags, W2, W6, W7,
Oh, here,
W8, W9, what are those? What do they refer to?
There are some separate documents, maybe from the wetland scientist that came out. Maybe they're not on the plot plan or whatever was submitted, but I could try to send maybe those over.
Raised.
So it says edge
Oh,
of
so that's what
water
it's gonna-
at the GC
that-
points there.
The map on the screen looks like the 25-foot line goes through the middle of the deck.
So, wait. So where's the 25, oh, so, oh, no build, no, oh, I see. Oh, so, no, I see. So so you're basically between the 50 and 25. You're basically putting the deck in the, okay, between the, oh, so my question is this. Is where the proposed deck is going, is that already disturbed, that's already property? That's
Yeah,
disturbed?
it's already disturbed land. Yeah.
Okay. So you're taking the deck off the back and putting it on the side, kind of like that, or you're putting an extension?
It's a,
You're wrapping
yeah.
around.
Wrapping it
Longer.
around, wrapping it around.
It's not coming.
Yeah, we'll wrap it around.
No, I got it.
So the original will go back, and then we're just gonna wrap it around to make it a bit larger. Yeah.
See, so this is what I was talking about earlier, right? So this is a situation where, sure, you're working between the no touch and no build, right? But it's grandfathered because it's already existing property. It's
Yeah.
already done. It's
already
lawn,
decked there.
right?
Yep.
You're not gonna tell the guy that he can't cut his lawn ever again. I mean, okay, so, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so this is an MBZA, yeah.
These are nice deck plants, by the way.
They are.
Thanks.
great.
Yeah, I think they looked pretty nice.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
so too.
that's right.
This is,
Yeah.
this is great.
And, I'm just curious, so one question we typically will ask is, when you guys build with a footing, right? These are just
Yep.
like little sonotubes or something, or just like, you're not gonna build like these huge holes or something, right?
Aren't you, looks like you're drilling in, piers, right?
Yeah, the contractor sent me this,
Those are
sent me
drill
something for
piers?
this. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
They said that the helical piles, minimum soil disturbance
Yeah,
with 2
yeah.
3/8
Okay,
diameter,
okay.
yeah.
It comes in, you drill them right in, he
Yep, exactly.
cuts them off,
Right.
slicker in a button.
Right, okay, all right, yep,
Yeah.
that's pretty standard stuff,
The,
okay.
one thing, and I'm thinking, so, on the plans, not wetland related, but they do, I don't see any blocking in their, between the joists, so,
Louis,
okay.
come on.
Everything else
We're
looks.
not here to review
No,
the plan.
it's not structured.
So.
That's not our, that's
But-
not our MO.
I love plants, and, but it's the, it's the great plants, by the way, I'm sure they're gonna put them in, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, it's a habit, you know.
You couldn't help
Oh,
yourself.
man, okay. All right, does anybody have any questions about this project? No?
No,
Looks good.
No?
go build your deck.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, so
Appreciate
I
it.
think we.
I'll give you a motion to approve the minor buffer zone activity for Chris Drive deck installation.
Second.
Vote to approve.
Approve.
Make sure you get the block.
Approve the
permit.
choice. Approve the choice.
With blocking,
Okay, okay, approve. Everyone approves, yes, approves. Okay, thank you.
I need another.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So now-
You're not wired up enough.
I'm running out.
Okay, so now we go to violations enforcements. First one is 4 Tanglewood Drive. I have some notes here. It appears that several trees were cut and stuck around the yard. The trees appeared, though, to be in the yard, not the nearby wetland. However, they're close. But the work does, too, appear to be conducted with a 25-foot buffer zone. But my question is,
That's not on the agenda.
So
what?
I think that's follow-up from a couple meetings ago.
Oh,
I think Mark was just
sorry.
confirming a little bit.
Mark had this down as on the thing.
Yeah, I
Oh,
see.
sorry. Forget that. I just even mentioned any of that, sorry. Okay. I don't know why that was on. Okay, so you have 305 Union Street, but there's nothing here about 305 Union Street.
I think it's just whether or not you want to extend it another
Oh,
30 days.
Did we confirm letters were issued and mailed?
No, they have not been.
Okay.
So let's extend again.
for both
Yeah,
addresses? Or do we have to mention them both? I guess we do.
yeah,
Can we make them all part of one?
yes.
Okay, we'll give you a motion to extend the violation enforcement for 261-4 Tanglewood Drive and 262-24 Bubbling Brook Road until we send confirming letters and are issued and mailed.
Well, there is no,
No,
it's 305 Union Street. We have a violation order out to them. We can extend that. But the other two, we haven't really spoken to the property owners.
Right, we
have
haven't done that, they're waiting for the letters. I know, yes.
Actually,
So-
when I was walking this net the other day, I heard a bobcat or something running on the Bubbling Brook address as well.
as in a machine?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought maybe it was a bobcat.
Okay, so 305 Union Street, is this something we just want to extend for another 30 days or what? What is it?
Well, we could do that, we're good at that.
We're good at that.
I think Richard knows that.
Okay, why-
Well, let's forget what I said before. Let's extend the violation enforcement for 4 Tanglewood Drive,
No, 305 Union Street.
305 Union Street, okay, for
Second.
another 30 days.
Okay, yeah.
Second.
There's a second.
Vote to extend.
Extend,
Extend.
Extend.
Extend?
it's extended, okay, now. Now, minutes, I didn't see anything wrong with the minutes I've reviewed them. Did anybody have any problems with minutes?
I didn't have any problem with them.
I read nothing.
No? No? Okay, vote to approve the minutes, motion to approve the minutes.
I give you a motion to approve the minutes for May 15th, 2025.
Second, somebody?
Second.
Okay.
Vote to approve.
Approved.
Approved.
Approve.
Approved?
That's approved, okay. Now we have these things on discussions. There's nothing on them in the notes, so I don't know what they're about. 121 Grove Street.
So that is, I believe, I can read the email. I believe they're just checking we wanted to review the order of condition and see if the notice that they had sent us, if we had any issues with, what was in there as far as compliance. I believe the printout of the email may be in the Google Drive if you want to have a look.
I did read that, Tyler. So.
Okay. Yep, okay. Good. I mean, I have nothing on that, I've read it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing to discuss, I don't think, yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one, Spruce Pond. Spruce Pond wants to come out, I think, was it June something?
Solitude Lake Management
Solitude,
is
yeah,
doing some
Solitude.
maintenance there. And they just wanted to confirm from us that we would have no issues with them commencing that.
No. They need to get that done. Yep, okay. So, June 9th, coming out to June 9th to do it.
Is this for Spruce Pond, you say?
This is for Spruce Pond.
Because didn't they never do it last year? or-
Yes, correct.
So weren't they gonna have to start the process over again? Or is this the start of the process?
I think this is the restart of the process, yeah.
So what is the discussion?
There is no discussion, just to let us know what's going on. They're gonna go out, and they're gonna review what are the conditions, right, basically, where did they have to start?
Okay.
Do they start from the beginning, do they start from the end?
Okay. They're not gonna do an application.
They just said, all they're gonna basically is visit the water body and observe conditions,
Okay.
right? But they do say, if the order of conditions allows them, they will do a treatment. But one of the conditions is they have to let us know before they are going to commence treatment. They have to let the agent know. That's it, yeah, so Tyler, that will probably come to Brieco I. I don't know if that comes to you, but that's where it's gonna go. So we need to know about that. Because
Right.
last time they didn't tell her, when
Right.
they came out and tried to do stuff, and that was a huge conclusion, so.
All right, yeah,
Or reach out to them and just say, hey, make sure, if you guys are going, we understand you're going to get to observe, but if you guys are gonna then commence, that we need to know about it.
All right.
Okay, treatment, okay?
Yeah,
And there's a process for that.
Yeah, there's a process, yeah. Okay, and, okay, fine. And then the results of the agent site visits, I think, I read through those. No, I didn't see there was anything. For Lincoln Street, no action.
A lot more information.
Faith Way, someone from Beaver Solutions is coming out. 266 Daniel, no necessary actions. That was pretty much it.
So Faith Way, I believe we have.
Oh, okay. Do you guys want to just come up quickly and tell us what's going on with Faith Way, just so we know? Keep us up to date.
Just tell us who you are.
Sure, Bob Griffin, 52 Vale Drive, Franklin, over at the, what's known as the Village of Oak Hill, Franklin, the old Kleinsburg ski area. We submitted a request a week or 10 days ago for a special permit for a beaver deceiver pipe. We'd just like to understand what the process would be in terms of a timeline. I'm here with Joanne Solomon, who's also a trustee, and Mr. Bob Pugh, who's president of the Board of Trustees there. For us, it's more than a theoretical issue. Last year, the community suffered $140,000 uninsured loss due to beavers pulling debris into the stormwater area. So we're very concerned about this new generation of beaver infestation in a pond above Faith Way. We all love them as the nature's engineers. We want to cohabitate with them. We're just looking to have some guidance on the timeline to have a beaver deceiver pipe installed. We had a couple of vendors out in the last week or so. We've submitted the paperwork, we think, and we've gotten a quote. And the vendor needs, I guess, a special permit in order to go forward with the work. And somewhere along the way, we heard that it's the Board of Health that does the permits. So we'd just like some clarification.
John, are you still on line? John Nero?
No, it looks like John left the call.
John left? Okay, I'm unfamiliar with the process. That's really a Brico-Life question. Do we?
Right. Yeah, I'll see if I can reach out to John about it, see.
Okay.
So you guys had submitted a special permit request, you said, for this
Yes.
beaver deceiver?
A Beta was out to visit the site last Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, so they did.
Yeah,
from Beta Group.
Okay, so they did.
Yeah.
Did you receive anything back from Beta? No.
No.
Okay. Tyler, can we follow up with Beta? Find out
So,
what's
yeah, I
going
did
on?
forward them their notes, but I'll check up with John and Anna again,
Because usually we get a copy of anything they'll send to an applicant.
Oh, we understood that you got the copy already.
Oh,
In fact,
The notes,
sent
just
some
the notes,
information
that's
to.
what we got.
Oh, so it wasn't.
That's what they were, that's what they had sent us.
So what I'm reading here is just that's all we got.
That's what we got from it,
Oh,
the site visit.
Right. So we basically need additional help from them about process. What process and permits and where to go. They will know. They'll know who to go to.
Right.
Because, see, the confusion thing here is that the town agent for Concom is also Natural Resources Director. They're actually separate things. And it's not clear to me whether the Natural Resources Director then oversees the beaver part. Because Brico-Life has been involved
Yes.
in beaver deceiver projects in the past
Yes.
for Delcart, the Delcart pond.
Okay.
So, but I don't know in what capacity.
She has been out to our property in the past
Okay.
to give permission. I spoke to you, I think it might have been 2 or 3 years ago,
Right.
about cutting trees that were in conservation land
Right.
that were threatening buildings.
Right.
Now we're dealing with the
Right.
floods threatening buildings.
Right,
so.
right. So, and we know that beavers, again, they're wonderful engineers, but the problem is that what they do upstream has significant impacts both
It does.
upstream and downstream by changing the hydrology everywhere, right? So it's, so even just like one big dam, I mean, Dale Park, we're having that problem where it was like massively impacted, we were flooding out like.
I got great pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So,
can share with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah.
Right. So, so we have used the beaver deceivers in Franklin in the past. I think we've used them twice, if my recollection is. They
We actually
work-
have one on our property.
Okay, they
Just
worked
those.
very well. They worked very well. We were very happy with them. And they really helped with the Del Park situation, because what we found was trying to, I think it's actually illegal to trap beavers.
That's what I
believe.
understand.
It's illegal. You can't do that. I mean, you could at one point. You can't do that anymore. That's illegal
I
now.
think there's a certain time frame that you're,
November
Yeah,
1st to April.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
something that
right,
you're
right. But if you
able-
miss that, then you have a
Yeah.
lot of damage, right? So, so the deceivers are nice because they obviously work.
the problem is even if you trap them and euthanize them, they're gonna be back in
Yeah.
another year or two, or
Yeah.
we're gonna be sitting here again.
Yeah, right, so there's no permanent solution. Right?
Okay.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, unfortunately, she really is the one that has all the experience with that. So Tyler, if you can reach out to John and get some help and support on this. because-
I do recall that, I feel like she brought that in front of us once or twice to get approval. And Derek Adams was a big part of that, so you might reach out to him.
That's a good point.
Yes, you were correct. Derek was, yeah.
And Derek is with,
Public Works, DPW.
Yeah. It was like, it was
Public
joint,
Works.
it was
Okay.
joint
She
between.
did it with, yes, because she did it with him.
Right,
Yes.
right.
It was a, yeah.
It was like a joint project between Public Works and
The
Conservation.
only thing that's really important or critical at this point is that if we get a lot more rain and
Oh,
this
yeah.
whole thing builds
Oh,
up
no.
again, so it kind
Yeah,
of time sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
Is the beaver back out there building the dam?
oh, yes,
Yeah.
oh, absolutely. 100%.
Every day.
Take a
Every
stick
day.
out in 24 hours,
It's
back. Big sticks.
They're stronger than they were.
Big
Yes.
A lot stronger than.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Bloody
And
trees.
they're also, they're
perseverance.
also getting all the trees around that area because
Right.
that's
They're
what they need,
tenacious.
you know. Yes, very industrious.
Now, the pond that has the beaver deceiver pipe in it now, there's been a pair of beavers there for a number of years. And the folks that came out to assess the situation for us indicated that, you know, when the females get to be 4 years old, they have a litter of 4, they stay with the adults for 2 years, and then they move them, they get them out of the den, they have to go find their own place, and it feels like the other 2 ponds that don't have beaver deceivers is where the youngins are going to. And then the female has in their second year of breeding, not 4, but 5, and the third year. You know, we love them dearly, but, you know, in my mind, well, they are in fact the largest rodent in North America.
When they
Aquatic
come,
rabbits, they just go and go.
Yes, they multiply fast.
when they flood out your house,
You know, so
that's the end
we're
of it.
looking for the way to
Yeah, yeah.
coexist with them
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't think we can defeat them.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. And the beaver deceiver pipe that we have works great. It's on town conservation land. It was put in sometime prior to 2015. And it's the pond that's higher up from that that feeds down into that. That's at issue now. And
Well,
it's-
that was actually one of the reasons we were able to get the Army Corps of Engineers grants to come in and replace the earthen dams. If you guys remember, way back when Del Park was all earthen dams, Ernest Del Park had built these earth banks when he originally made a cranberry bog originally, before it became a fish hatchery, a long, long time ago. So he built these, so that's what they are, but the problem is that they would break, they're soil, right, they break. And then the beavers would see this running water, and that's where they'd go, and they'd build these dams. But the problem is that they build the dams higher than the dam itself would be way over, the base of the bank. So if we change, the water would go everywhere, and then it would blast out the dam in the other parts. It was just totally crazy. So that's why we got the Army Corps to come in and put in real concrete sluiceway, dams all up and down the Del Park, so you could actually do the regulation. But even so, we still had to put in beaver deceivers, a beaver deceiver. because of this one area that we just couldn't get.
Now, when you say you put them in, is it something at the town expense to put them in?
Yeah, town, yeah, because it's a it's a town-owned property.
It's a what?
Town-owned property. It's a conservation property.
Yeah.
Yeah, but would you then pay for putting a beaver deceiver in
Faith Pond?
VOH?
That's a good question, because if, again, that's the reason why unfortunately the people that know don't put here.
Yeah.
But that's a good question, like, you know, if it becomes, and see, this is where the confusion might come with health and safety. Because if it turns out it actually is a human health issue, you know, like you're actually flooding out like people's houses and stuff, and that's you're actually like causing damage.
Yeah, last year we had 2 buildings with 8 units that were
I'm
completely
just saying,
flooded.
right, I mean, that's a health issue. So potentially, you could actually make the argument that the town should kick in or take over the project, right, to make sure it's done, such that they don't have these health issues that arise from beavers. Possible.
Will John be able to give us?
Yeah, John will know. John, or somebody. John.
Is it reasonable to expect that we could have a solution in place with the beaver deceiver in like 5 to 7 weeks? Because we're concerned about all the water that we're gonna get in July and August time.
No, I don't think, I think John will understand the process. He'll probably tell you, if you fill out this permit, submit it to, I don't know who, us, somebody, or both. And then there'll probably be like a discussion, you know, a three-way discussion, multi-way discussion. You know, what is the plan, here's the project. And what I remember about the last one, the one from Del Carl is that the people who put the deceiver in came to us and proposed the project. Yeah, look, this is the plan, we're gonna do this certain day, and we just,
We have an email from the vendor,
Right.
and I think it was sent to Tyler recently in the last day or so.
That shows all the plans.
Okay, well then, you guys already done, basically all the work.
Yeah.
Right, so again, if it is conservation that's supposed to approve that.
It has been.
Right, then you guys would just come to us and say, here's the plan, can you just, you know, give us your blessing, and you say yes.
Is there any way of knowing what, is what's been provided sufficient, and should we come back?
Again,
and-
that's a John question.
Oh, okay.
That's a John question. So I would say have that material, you know, if you meet with him or talk to him, just tell him about the plans, make sure he knows about
Yeah.
that. He may ask to see a copy of that.
Okay, well, I have them, I can
Who
actually
is
read
John?
them.
So, John.
Is John on the health board?
No.
If I
John's
give
a-
them to Tyler, can Tyler
Yeah,
pass
you can
this
give-
on
yeah,
to?
Yeah, give it to Tyler.
Okay.
So John Nero works for a company called Beta.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Beta is Beta Engineering.
Yes, Beta
And
Engineering.
Anna
Environmental
was the
Con-
one.
They're the
Town engineer.
for conservation consultants for us.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So John Nero is one of their top guys. He's filling in for our agent while she's on maternity leave.
Okay.
That's what's happening now. So unfortunately, you're getting caught on this maternity leave thing, and the person, so the knowledgeable one is not here.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So.
All right.
So John will receive the information that Anna's gonna
Tyler will get
publish
some- Right.
as the result of her being
Right,
there
and
last week.
Tyler will ask John to reach out to them and let them, right?
Yep,
Okay.
let me just, or your emails on these notes for, I have Joanne's, I know.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
concerned I
That's
have
fine,
yours.
as long as you send it to Joanne, she'll get it to us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
okay,
We'll get him in touch with you, and we'll get this thing going.
Good.
good, all
Awesome.
right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming in. Thank you.
Sorry that it had to stay so late.
No, I'm sorry it's so late.
Sorry you had to sit through it. It was
Thank you for your
interesting, I'm
Enlightening.
sure.
Very interesting.
Enlightening. Well, interesting to a point. Okay. All right. I think we're done with everything. Are we done with
There's,
everything?
I think there's the matter of that application from Water and Wetlands, that you might have the packets of. Do you have that? I didn't hand them out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is this the Del card?
yeah.
The water ordinance? Okay, wait. Okay, what is this? Whether we want to treat Del card again?
This is the invasive.
Let me, give me notes. I believe at the end of April,
this may have been submitted. This is the only submittal that they received for treatment of invasive species of Delcarts, but.
So these are
it sounds
people
like-
that have done it for us before?
No, I don't believe so.
I think it was
This is-
Solitude.
But this, company would be beginning with this on June 4th if this was to be approved by the commission.
We're trying to get away from it.
So this is just the information from the company.
Oh, it's a quote.
And the quote.
Is this something that has been successful for us in the past?
Yes, very successful.
Yeah, I was doing some research on it, and the chemical they're using, it seems like it's not as, impactful into the aquatic environment, and it will take care of the.
The milfoil.
Well,
Yeah, they're cheaper than Solitude, man, I'm good.
and you're comfortable with the material they're using?
Yes, I looked it up, and it,
Well, if we don't do something out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
it will choke the whole thing
Yeah,
out
and
in
no
short
no
order.
one's gonna go there, and it's gonna stink, and no one's gonna, oh, the kids, oh, it smells.
Yeah, you're right, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate. We could get rid of that problem, we could just go out and dredge it, but maybe not.
We've already been through that with Beaver Pond, thank you very much.
Yeah, that'd be quite-
Just ask recreation, right?
That'd be an operation.
Just ask recreation.
So Tyler, you're just looking for a vote on this?
I think just purchasing needs a confirmation from the commission, especially.
To authorize them to proceed?
Commit or share with
Do
us.
you guys wanna take a vote on whether we should accept the quote and proceed with the project?
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you a motion.
Have we looked into these guys at all? Any reviews?
Problem is that we only have like 2 people that do it, that will do it.
This is the only submittal that.
Yes, and this is the only submittal because basically we're not on great terms with Solitude.
Okay.
We kind of told them.
So, okay, I see the bill.
Yeah. Which is a lot cheaper than Solitude was before.
Is everybody ready?
All right, go.
I'll give you a motion to accept the proposal from Water and Wetland to treat Delcart Pond
And authorize the amount.
and authorize their price. Do we need to mention the price?
We should.
Yeah.
Get the record.
So this-
We authorize the open-ended price.
What is it, 17,000? For $17,700. As stated in their proposal of April 3rd, 2025.
Good, that's good, that's a good motion. Okay, I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay.
Vote to approve it.
Vote to approve.
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 approved?
Okay, approved. Thank you. I think that's it, right, Tyler? Nothing else?
I believe that's
Okay.
everything.
Okay, do I have a vote to adjourn?
I'll give you a motion to adjourn.
Motion, second?
Vote to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Late night, I did not expect this.
4 public